crazy enough to what? Yeah.
Don't even play. That's too much, man.
Don't be creepy.
This woman is dangerous, ladies and gentlemen.
Do you know what we're here for?
There's no point in you betraying your future self to gratify your present self. It's a stupid game.
Consequences.
I don't want reality.
He looks good, and he looks hard.
Jesus, I say that.
old strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Well, look, it's like it's that time again, folks. It's the weekend. What does that mean? No doom. Wait, hold on. Nope, I take it back. Nope, we've actually got a bunch of stuff to look at here today, and thankfully, we have each other. Buckle up those seatbelts, space fans. Got a little journey to take through the abyss. Seeing a lot of beautiful faces in chat already. Oh, nope. Aaron W. Chris Garrett. Snakes. Abea. Baclarity Carlton Martin. Midi Doctors, and also Jules T. Wow. So many people. So many people. Such a little time. Well, it's been an quite an eventful week. I'm gonna try and recap a few of the things that we've done, as well as bring to you some things that perhaps you haven't seen yet. Oh boy. Having a barbecue. Sounds very tempting. You can almost smell it all the way up here. Well, yesterday we inundated ourselves by looking with gun violence by looking at a whole slew of videos relating to that, so I feel like we get a day off today. Said, Let's talk about police violence. What do you think? Let's look at this video from Democracy Now! From a day ago, entitled Power. Yance Ford on his new film, and why violence is part and parcel of U.S. policing.
democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Ahead of Memorial Day weekend here in the United States, many are remembering how it was 4 years ago this Saturday that the police murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis sparked global protests for police accountability and abolition. This comes amidst new attention on police brutality at protests calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. Now, a new Netflix documentary called Power examines the role of police in the United States. This is the trailer.
Police power is immediate power. It's right now. Do what I told you to do right now, or else. I decide what happens next.
You're gonna watch this tomorrow? The documentary looks
Policing is inextricably linked
really
to
powerful.
the racial history of this country.
Possible and whiteness. So police targeted people marked as non-white.
Slaves.
Indigenous and working class people.
Police have been able to double down on their power time and time again.
There are a lot of people that feel that policing is out of control. But it's also the case that there's horrific crime, and it also is out of control.
Policing is hard now. It's real hard.
We deal with a lot of murders.
In the United States, police power is essentially unregulated.
Anybody who moves to hold police accountable faces a challenge.
The biggest problem with policing today is that most of the harm that policing causes is perfect.
Jesus fucking Christ. George Floyd's the anniversary of his death is tomorrow. Yeah. 4 years. It's been that long. Yep, Netflix. That is where this is going to be available. I don't know if it's actually out yet or not. I didn't even look it up. I just watched this discussion on Democracy Now! So far.
How did we get here? The question breaks down as soon as you ask it. We may share this country, but is your America and my America the same place? Has it ever been?
Frederick Douglass said, power concedes nothing without a demand. And the power that is American policing hasn't conceded anything.
In this kind of democracy, who is more powerful? The people or the police?
The trailer for Power, now streaming on Netflix, made by Yancey Ford,
it's been out for
director
a
of the
week.
Oscar-nominated documentary
I have not
Strong
been looking
Island,
at my Netflix at
about
all.
the murder of his brother. This is a clip from Power when we hear from Yancey Ford himself. For more, we're joined by Yancey Ford, director of this new documentary, Power. Welcome back to Democracy Now! And congratulations.
Thank you, Amy. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you with us. Talk about when you started this film.
Yeah, so, you know, I started developing the film in the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd, and in response, directly in response to the policing of the protests that broke out around the country in response to his murder.
Sorry, I got wrapped up here. Oh. BGAT, good to see you. Anti-corporatist is here now. Everybody's showing up. Beautiful to see.
There's something about the tenor of the police protests, the unrestrained violence the response of the police to the protests, the unrestrained violence of the police response to these protests. I was watching people getting chased onto highways. I was watching people being run over by cars,
yeah, we all
being kettled indiscriminately on the streets. And it led me to ask this question: is this what policing is really for? And that, began this process, this three-year process that eventually turned into this film.
So let me turn to another clip, and I hate to interrupt you, but it is your documentary, and the power of this documentary is just astounding, and the scope and historical breadth. This is New York University professor Nikhil Pal Singh, author of Race in America's Long War, making a central point in Power.
You're just lurking while cleaning. I can appreciate that. We all have things to do,
That's NYU professor Nikhil Pal Singh. Yancey Ford, talk about these three dimensions.
Yeah, these 3 points of origin of policing, and the argument that the film makes is that, if we take a step back and realize that policing was never organized around fighting crime and keeping people safe, right? Police was always organized about the control, regulation, or seizing of property, whether it's people, indigenous land in the West, or breaking unions and regulating the behavior of not yet white immigrants in northeastern cities. It helps you understand, when you reframe policing in that way, what we see when people like Eric Adams in New York City says, we're not going to let people destroy our city. And the destruction that he's talking about isn't necessarily actual property destruction, right? The destruction that he's talking about is this semblance of order, and order as defined by the police, order as defined by politicians who are not interested in dissent being expressed freely by people in the streets of any city in the United States. You see that in response to Cop City in Atlanta. You see that in response to the FRIDAYYY protests. You see that in response to the protests after the murder of Michael Brown. The thing that the police want to do more than anything else is contain and control threats to order. And these threats to order are almost always about keeping property safe from the expression of anger and frustration on the part of the people.
I'm wondering if you can talk about a key figure in U.S. police history, August Vollmer, who you go into in Power.
Yeah. August Vollmer is deployed to the Philippines after the Spanish-American War and the United States occupation of the Philippines after the Spanish-American War. And he's part of this specialized unit that's charged with going into the interior of the country to root out the resistance to the American occupation, to crush that resistance and to take over that land. And what August Vollmer learns while he's away are the strategies of war and the strategies of occupation, the strategies of counter-insurgency, as you will. And when he returns to the United States from the Philippines, he brings that counter-insurgency mindset with him, and he becomes the police chief in
And we've been seeing examples of this now for years and years, ever since they really started ramping up the militarizing of police, like especially in terms of the equipment, is when it became the most, I guess, noticeable, at least in my mind. Where armored vehicles and grenade launchers and things like that were starting to get deployed on city streets. It's insane that that we've allowed it to go as far as it has, honestly, because we pay for it.
California. And quickly, the mindset of counterinsurgency, right? Seeing people who might be criminals.
Where is your emotional support, Sam Cedar? What? I don't think we've even voted on Sam Cedar. He should be on the list of real people. If he's not in there, I remember that being a suggestion. I'll make sure it's on there. But go on the Discord and double check it. He should be there under real people. He's a real person. Have we hit 10 likes? Do I have hold on. couldn't just let us go through the whole stream without dice today. That's just too much, man.
That's too much, man!
You deserve an emotional sport character. That's probably true. Yeah, you have 16 likes. Holy cow. Okay. Okay. Hold on. 2. Cisco keeps being the first. I don't know why or how all of my dice always land on 2. This is a different die, by the way. Because I did not look for the other one, so I just went to my dice box. Don't question that. Don't question the dice box. Alright.
As threats to the national order, seeing people who might be, expressing, dissent as existential threats to the country. That's directly from his experience in the Philippines. And so when we come to understand by watching this film how much of our domestic,
Jesus Christ, we're trying to watch this very thoughtful and important conversation, and yet I am also forgetting everything that is important. 3. 1, 2, 3. Captain Planet. Interesting. We haven't seen a Captain Planet in a while. Interesting. Okay, okay. Gonna bring pollution down to 0 together.
Policing was
our powers combined.
Actually influenced by this feedback loop of American occupation overseas. Then it's not a surprise then when you see, equipment, when you see, personnel carriers that look like they are straight from the battlefield. It's because they are straight from the battlefield. They are, military equipment that's, given to, granted to, or sold to police departments around the country to specifically enact the use of police as, frankly, small militaries whose job it is to suppress dissent.
I want to go back to Power, your documentary about the role of...
Help! Help! I'm being repressed!
Seriously, though. Okay, we can't watch this whole thing, but... I do kind of want to catch this piece of it here. How much am I cutting out? 3 minutes?
Floyd was murdered. And then I want to talk about that murder and what you did in the film with the blind spot, who you chose to focus on in the murder of George Floyd.
So, Inspector Adams is really, I think, unique among, the active duty police officers that we considered talking to. Charlie Adams is aware of the history of policing and how it originates in part from slave patrols. And he understands that that history informs the way in which police officers see communities of color, particularly in the 4th Precinct in Minneapolis, where he is, sort of charged with trying to keep the neighborhood he is from safe. But he also recognizes that the training police have received is from a military model. When he calls it paramilitary, you might as well just drop the para part. There's nothing paramilitary about it. It is military. And I think that what he, tries to impress upon his officers by taking them to the Legacy Museum in Montgomery, Alabama, for example, is the complicity of police in some of our greatest atrocities in this nation. Right? He talks about how police...
Absolutely. And we've been seeing it for... Like, Jesus, when of the first protests on campuses really start? Because I feel like that's, at least in recent history, right? What we've been witnessing in America and in other places, honestly, not just America. We've seen crackdowns in Europe and in Canada to some degree. But to stay on this topic, I figured we would actually talk about this now. At least to at least stay in the topic of protests, right, and the response to these things. Let's look at this. This is from CBC News 11 hours ago. 13 students involved in the Harvard encampments will not be receiving their degrees.
Welcome back to Canada Tonight. Hundreds of students in Massachusetts walked out of a commencement ceremony at Harvard University earlier today. Yesterday, the university had announced 13 students who took part in pro-Palestinian encampments would not be receiving their degrees. The students protesting today called for the 13 to be allowed to get their diplomas. While professors at some institutions have voiced support for the protest, not all of them agree on how it is being done, and that is the subject of tonight's Spotlight. Steven Pinker joins me now from Truro, Massachusetts. Thank you so much for taking the time.
I'm sorry, where?
My pleasure, thanks.
You know, I want to start...
Good God. Good God. Oh, I have a bunch more people showing up. I see Afroponics, FG, and Bad Ash have slipped into this chat here, as well as Schmegley. Good evening, all of you space fans.
With the news that 13 students involved with the recent encampment protests at Harvard will not be receiving their degrees alongside their peers. What's your reaction to this?
Well, although I'm an advocate of free speech and academic freedom, all definitions of academic freedom permit there to be restrictions on time, place, and...
It was really just for the headline. I just found it completely frustrating, right? And I don't even want to listen to, because this guy basically tries, not the whole time, but for much of the time, he kind of just placates Harvard University from wherever he is. Oh, he's the co-president of the Council on Academic Freedom at Harvard. Okay, that makes a lot more sense now. But basically, I mean, it's very frustrating to me to think that people who have been working their ass off to whatever, get a degree, are being denied that degree just because they decided to engage in something political. It's completely wild. It's a continuation of this sort of just perverse response to protesters on campuses. Even Soul Life's here. Wow, shocking. Shocking. Usually you don't show up until, I don't know, 3 in the morning or something. This is strange. I'm having an out-of-body experience. Okay. What's next? They should get an honorary degree for what they're doing. Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. Alright, let's look at this. As a ruling has come down here, or well, actually, I don't know if it's actually, I think it was part of a settlement. It was I think settlements can still have rulings, so I might not technically be wrong with my terminology here, but essentially, a settlement has been reached between the NCAA and a group of plaintiffs, and a historic settlement of $2.8 billion has been reached, and it now establishes essentially legal framework to some degree for NCAA athletes to be paid.
In an historic first, the NCAA and nation's Power 5 conferences have reached a deal to pay their athletes. The ACC, Big Ten, Big 12, SEC, and Pac-12 accepted the general terms of a settlement that will see the NCAA pay nearly $2.8 billion in damages over 10 years to nearly 14,000 athletes dating from 2016 to now. It also creates a new system that allows schools to use up to $21 million a year to pay student athletes in any sport starting in 2025. The agreement was proposed to resolve a series of lawsuits challenging the NCAA, which may have had to pay billions more. It still needs to be accepted by a judge, and many details need to be worked out, including how schools will pay athletes, whether payments will be equitable by gender, and what it means for different sports. For more on this landmark deal, we're joined by Pat Forty, senior writer for Sports Illustrated. Pat, it's great to have you here. So I think it's safe to say the days of the amateur student athlete, college athlete, those days are over. Help us understand how significant this moment is.
Yeah, this is the death of amateurism, which has basically been on the books forever in college athletics. So it is a significant milestone.
Honestly, it's about time that NCAA just stopped, and colleges stopped making money off of their athletes who are, oftentimes still paying the schools to some degree, right? Games companies are among just a few who are using the likenesses of these athletes in other sort of either promotional or whatever other sort of way to make money, and it's just completely twisted that these people don't get the opportunity because it's been considered what's the word? I can't think of it.
Rules of amateurism had been eroding for years, most specifically starting 3 years ago when name, image, and likeness payments were first approved, but this is a major acceleration from that. This provides, as you noted, back damages to 4 years worth of college athletes who are no longer in their sports, and then also a framework to pay for a decade going forward. So this is a lot of money being transferred from the traditional coffers of the athletic administration, coaches, athletic directors, facility usage, directly into the hands of the players, and it being done by the schools themselves. That's the...
Now, unfortunately, it does not actually, and when I use the word framework, I think I probably got ahead of myself, actually, because the fact is it doesn't set up all of the actual ways that these things have to be doled out. Unfortunately, that is still going to be, to some degree, it's going to be left up to a judge, right? So this is going to be brought to a judge, and some of the determinations will be made by them. But what it does is, I guess what I should have said instead of framework was legal, what's the word that I'm thinking of? I can't think of it because I'm not a lawyer. God damn it. Precedent. Thank you, brain. Like the legal precedent for all of this, which should at least start this will start the ball rolling on making sure that college athletes are at least compensated to some degree. However, it doesn't say whether or not there needs to be equity between players on teams or between men and women. It's very vague in terms of a lot of that, unfortunately, but I hopefully hopefully this will at least be beneficial, not bad. I don't know. Honestly, I don't watch that much sports, as you might or might not know. I spend a lot of my time keeping up with current events and things like that. So many of these young kids have CTE now, right? Like the especially the like not basketball, like football players. No, totally. And I mean, not the basketball players don't also get head injuries as well. They do. Yeah. And where do the expenses for those come from? Right? They wind up having to pay for it somewhere down the line. Meanwhile, they are asked to sacrifice their bodies, essentially. Like, hey, Okay. Let's look at this a little bit. This is from 10 hours ago. More Perfect Union. You won't believe how the credit card industry actually works. All right. Guess we'll find out.
Nearly every time you buy something, you're paying an invisible toll. It's not to the worker who made the product or to the business that provided the service. It's to the hidden middlemen at the center of our economy.
I buy everything on my Platinum Cashback Everyday credit card.
No preset spending limit.
Less hassle and more convenience.
What's in your wallet?
Credit cards. At this point, they're basically how we pay for everything, but we rarely think about how they actually work.
Credit cards are a truly massive transfer of wealth from working class and middle class people to the wealthy.
Credit card companies are some of the most profitable corporations in the world. Why? Do they really add that much value to our lives?
They're getting money from both sides and loving it. It's not so great for the rest of us.
In February, Capital One, the massive credit card lender, announced that it's merging with a competitor, Discover. The merger, if it happens, would create the largest credit card company.
Wait, CTE treatment? Is that what it is? I thought I thought CTE was the concussion, like when you've had too many concussions. And hold on, now I have to look this up. Hold on, now you've broken my brain. Oh, it is chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE, is a progressive degenerative disease affecting people who have suffered repeated concussions and traumatic brain injuries. Okay, I'm not losing my mind, thank God.
In the US. When I started digging into the details, I was genuinely shocked, not just by the merger, but by how the credit card industry already operates.
The fees that we pay are absolutely exorbitant.
It's an industry with cartel-like pricing, and the private tax it imposes on all of us adds up to hundreds of billions of dollars a year. To understand how it works, let's start with a simple question. How do credit card companies make money? We can divide that into two categories. First, money they make from buyers, from interest and fees on cardholders like me and you. Second, money they make from sellers, from swipe fees charged to retailers on every sale. Let's look at the buyer side first. This market is dominated by the big credit card lenders, like Capital One. I talked to somebody who knows this market from the inside.
I saw a graph. Jesus Christ. Chase and Amex combined had over $1 trillion in transactions in the first 6 months of 2023. Get the fuck out. That's wild. That's the first 6 months. That doesn't even include holiday shopping season.
Capital One. I talked to somebody who knows this market from the inside.
So I started right out of college as an analyst.
Elena Botea worked at Capital One from 2013 to 2018. There, she saw firsthand the strategy that's made it enormously profitable, and it wasn't at all what she expected.
So if you look at Capital One compared to other credit card companies, what you see is much more aggressive marketing to people who could probably not pay back their loans.
Instead of targeting the wealthy, Capital One pushes credit cards on customers likely to miss their monthly payments, working people.
We're talking, about underwriting up to a point where 1 in 3 people are going to default and then get sued.
Capital One mails out so many credit card offers that in some years it's been a #1 customer of the US Postal Service. But what surprised Elena was that the company's top profits came from something else its customers didn't ask for: increases to their credit limits, unsolicited enticements to spend more.
A huge amount of this debt, right, is not coming from people coming forward and saying, I want to borrow money. It's coming from people who are working class, who are middle class, who, without them taking action, suddenly have more credit available to them.
And the fact is that they they have access to a lot of your information, right? And they're making very specific choices as to who they're giving out credit to, who they think they can pull the most money out of, essentially, how long they think you can go on making your minimum payment for, or whatever, right? Until you literally just whatever. I think you get where I'm going with it. Hold on, we can't watch this whole thing though, so let me just push this forward just slightly. We talk about interest rates and how fucking high they are. Yes, they are very high. Wait, is this it? Oh, yeah. Alright, sorry. Here.
Look like what you might expect. 4 companies process credit card transactions: Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and Discover. Together, they're known as the payment networks.
The payment network has the infrastructure to communicate the messages from the merchant's point of sale over to the bank and back. They're really like a data line.
You wish you had the problem of being thrust credit in your face. You know, it's, I mean, I get what you're saying. Access to credit is hugely important in our fucking society, regardless of its clear problems. And when you don't have it, it really sucks. I do not blame you for feeling that way.
Doug Cantor is a small business advocate who's been working to reform the credit card industry for many years. He explained that networks charge a swipe fee on every purchase, usually 2 to 3% of the sale price. Those fees have more than doubled since 2014, reaching $172 billion last year.
So when you use that credit card, if you spent $100 at a store, the actual store only gets about $97.
My name is Jared Sheeler. I'm the CEO of the Hub Convenience Stores based in Dickinson, North Dakota. When I look at the expense portion of my P&L, the biggest line item there is labor, but after that, it's swipe fees. It's ahead of utilities, it's ahead of rent, it's ahead of health insurance that we pay on behalf of our team members. It's ahead of everything, which is kind of crazy to think about. As a business, amongst my 5
I mean, it is pretty fucking crazy to think about, right? Because what are they doing exactly? That is the question I think we all have to ask ourselves. Because oftentimes, almost always actually, I'm pretty sure, they're not providing the machines. They're not providing the electricity to run the machines. And they're, in fact, doing almost nothing. And in this day and age, with technology we have, like, they almost don't need to exist. Right? Considering everybody has a computer in their pocket, which they can like access, not everybody, most people, right? Like, and or a credit card to some degree, or you know, a bank account, right? I mean, in this case, that's the only thing we're talking about, right? If you don't have one of those things, this doesn't affect the business or the consumer, but because of our access to technology, it doesn't make sense that there are these massive companies, like we just looked at, Amex and Chase combined, doing over $1 trillion in sales, and that's completely ignoring the rest of the market, because there's clearly a bunch of other people. You know, they are just this massive, like, monstrosity of companies worth trillions of dollars, taking money for practically doing essentially nothing, right? Okay, we're not gonna watch that whole thing. Let's quickly look at this, where apparently in Canada, 2 grocers by the name of Loblaws and Sobeys, I think, or Sobeys, I forget how it's pronounced. The owners of these companies are being investigated by the Competition Bureau. This is from 9 hours ago.
Canada's competition watchdog has launched a probe into 2 grocery giants. In documents viewed by the Canadian press, the commissioner is looking into Loblaw and Empire. It's to decide if they are blocking competition by other food retailers, something that limits choice and can keep food prices high. Jeannie Lee is looking into this for us. So what?
Oh God, I'm on Top Chat. Why am I on Top Chat? It's terrible. So rude. Stop telling me what you think I should see, okay? How about let me decide what I want to see, okay? YouTube, I don't appreciate you and your suggestions.
Exactly is the Competition Bureau looking into?
Well, Natasha, it will be pouring over a ton of documents by the looks of it, because there is going to be a lot to consider if the Competition Bureau is going to be able to prove that there's any kind of anti-competitive behavior going on. And here's what we mean. If you look at the federal court website, it shows the steps taken so far. There's the initial application of the Commissioner of Competition versus Empire Company and versus George Weston, which is parent company of Loblaw. Now, each of them have exhibits A to M. That's a lot of exhibits filed on May 6th, and obviously more will be to come.
That's a lot.
Each dossier has 6 documents so far. No court date, though. So we know these two food giants by more familiar names like Sobeys and No Frills and Freshco and, of course, Loblaw. These two giants own many various banners and multiple grocery stores under each of those banners. So that means a lot of leases, and they are such big tenants that there's a question of whether they hold a lot of power in being able to build in terms and
You can't believe Loblaws isn't just a name for Arrested Development. Aren't you from Canada? But I do love that reference. Bob Loblaw's Loblog. It's a mouthful.
conditions that will dictate who can set up shop near them and what kind of businesses that those can be. And so this apparently, according to the Consumer or Competition Bureau, sets up conditions which might actually cut the choice that consumers have. And when we have less choice, our prices tend to be higher. Plus, we have less choice, which is not good for consumers, obviously.
Jeannie, how does the Bureau go about deciding what's normal capitalist competition versus downright anti-competitiveness?
That is an excellent question, because obviously you do need some protections as a business in some cases.
Okay. Anyways, I just thought this was interesting to see. We have been hearing this, not really in America, but in a lot of other places. There seems to be a lot of cracking down, or at least the attempt of cracking down on anti-competitive practices by businesses. Here we've talked about it on a number of occasions in terms of what's been going on in America and what's not being done, but things like RealPage and other things like that. But yeah, all right. Just thought it was nice to see it happening somewhere, I suppose. And there are Canadian viewers here too who are actually going to potentially directly benefit from that, so enjoy that. Let's see how it goes. No promises. Knock on wood. All right. What next? Okay, let's quickly talk about AI before we move on to... Oh, God. How did I plan on doing all this? Okay. Yeah, this is totally normal. Yeah, all right, let's talk about AI real quickly before we move on to directly talking about climate change. First, though, I can't remember if we talked about this already. I think we talked about the fact that Scarlett Johansson's voice got stolen and that she decided to sue ChatGPT. I think she's suing ChatGPT. Or who? You get what I'm saying. But this just came out earlier today, unrelated to her. This is CNN from 13 hours ago. AI stole our voices. 2 voice actors show CNN a comparison of their voices and alleged illegal AI versions. Actually, oh shit, wait. How did I almost skip this? Actually, wait, no, we already watched this. We already watched this yesterday, didn't we? Oh no. It's just a similar story. I've already said it, we're just moving on. We'll talk about
a controversial bill.
Just ghost white. We're in the Twilight Zone.
They really only need 30 seconds of your voice to clone it in a realistic way.
It's really, really disturbing.
This is Paul and Linnea. They're both voice actors who say they were hired in 2019 and 2020 by a client who wanted to use their voices for, quote, academic research and tests for radio ads. They say they were told their voices would not be used for anything else. But years later, the couple made a shocking discovery while listening to a podcast.
And it's talking about the potential dangers of AI and how the impact it might have on the entertainment industry. And the host is interviewing a AI entity, and that voice is my voice. And we had to pull the car over.
Dad, stop. So you knew immediately, this is my voice, but these are not things that I've ever actually said.
There wasn't a moment of doubt.
Quickly, the two actors discovered it wasn't just podcasts using what they say are AI versions of their voices.
Introducing Jenny by Lovo. Artificial intelligence that makes it fast and easy to create voiceovers for marketing, e-learning, documentaries, animations, games, audiobooks, and more. Need to create high-quality voiceover content. But
we just listened to what you say is the
It
AI
certainly
clone
sound
of
like
your
it.
voice. What's your reaction to that?
It's still infuriating. Not just because of the implications for my career, but because of the violation of me, of my individuality, my likeness, my voice, are saying these words that I did not agree to say. I gave no consent, nor was there any proper compensation, and I no longer have control.
Will you do your commercial voice for us for a second, just so that we can kind of compare?
Introducing Jenny by Lovo. Artificial intelligence that makes it fast and easy to create voiceovers for marketing, e-learning, documentaries, animations, games, audiobooks, and more.
Can we pull up that Linnea one too?
Does your child have difficulty reading? Is mathematics a thorn in their side? Our certified teachers are ready to help your son or daughter conquer their fears of reading, writing, arithmetic, and more.
And Linnea, you said this voice is your bread and butter. So this is the kind of thing that you might have said, but you didn't actually say these words.
So the first half of that was me. Those were the audio files that I delivered to them. And I still have those on an external hard drive that we were able to track down once we figured out who they were and when they ordered from us. And then the second half of the video is the AI version of me that they manipulated.
Does your
This shit is disturbing. Now, they did some more digging into it, and it turned out that the company that they agreed to do some amount of voiceover work for one thing, decided to take that and sell it to an AI company or some people that were doing this sort of AI thing to help model an AI after without their permission. And yeah, and the fact is that people with less resources than, say, a Scarlett Johansson or even a couple of voice actors such as these, I would assume there's quite a gap between Scarlett Johansson and these two resources. I don't know them personally, but you know, and then like just normal people who are just using technology, because we are aware, or at least I think most people are aware of the fact that to some degree, Google and Apple are at least attempting to listen to you oftentimes, or at least they are listening to you, depending on what sort of settings you have set up. And, you know, what is stopping them from, I don't know, adding a line into your next legal agreement that you have to sign to get the next software update that says they can use your voice to model AI after or whatever else without your explicit permission, and or for anything else, right? It's just a disturbing trend, I feel like, that's happening to the public without their permissions, right? It's creepy. It's creepy. What just happened? I just missed something. I was monologuing and I definitely missed something. Okay, well. What is Okay, let's look at this real quickly. This is from 8 days ago from Now This Impact. AI data centers are making the climate crisis worse.
One ChatGPT request, that's the equivalent of pouring out a bottle of water and powering a light bulb for 15 minutes.
A lot of people think of the internet as just being in the cloud. Really, it is taking up this huge space of these gigantic computers, which are data centers.
In Northern Virginia, we have over 300 data centers. There's around 100 million square feet.
And they use a lot of energy.
Artificial intelligence requires servers to run much hotter. Water cooling will be necessary. So where will that water come from?
One ChatGPT request, for example, that's the equivalent of pouring out a bottle of water and powering a light bulb for 15 minutes. If you multiply that times billions of requests, you can start to see the cumulative impacts.
AI is driving the need for additional power to meet this demand at an unsustainable rate.
The scale of the energy use is 20, 30, 40 times more per square foot than anything else that we're familiar.
I thought it was only 10 times. We were talking about fucking hell. I didn't even consider the fucking storage. Oh my god. Because earlier we were talking about how ChatGPT searches, like a simple text ChatGPT search, requires 10 times more energy than a simple Google search. But that's not 20, 30, 40 times. This is irresponsible.
Diesel generators are the backup power for AI applications or any data center application.
More fossil fuel emitting infrastructure that historically and currently impacts low-income communities and people of color.
We're contemplating a tripling of the entire energy infrastructure that we have today. And the effect on the average taxpayer is a doubling of their utility bills.
Everything that's needed to support this industry is paid for by the ratepayers as a whole, which is you, me.
It's very frustrating. Okay. Now let's get into the climate. And today I've decided to do climate a little bit differently than we normally do. It's actually going to take up a massive part of the stream. I might even need to take a break in the middle of it, to be perfectly honest, because we're already an hour in. But just because I know not only people have been here at different times, different streams, and maybe haven't seen some of this stuff, I just thought it would behoove us as a group to kind of look at this just slightly more bird's eye, to kind of recap perhaps some of the things that have happened just in this, just in this year or just in the last few months, essentially. But also, you'll see what I mean. Let's just start with this. This is from, actually, yeah, no, let's do it this one. This is from 8 hours ago. Nova PBS official. Are winters getting less snowy?
That's hot.
I think so.
When I was a kid, I cherished snowy winters filled with sledding and snow forts. Recent winters, however, have started to seem distinctly less snowy. I live in New England, a region known for its blizzards, but I can't remember the last time I stepped out into the winter wonderland I remember from my childhood, and I'm not the only one who's noticed this. Are winters truly becoming less snowy? Well, winters are getting warmer, and they're also getting shorter by nearly 2 weeks since 1972. So we're getting less snow, right? Not quite. These are annual snowfall totals from my hometown of Boston, going back to 1970. If my memory is accurate, there should be a clear downward trend, but there isn't. There is no correlation, negative or...
I love this graph. I really do. The fact that she took the time to cut these out and make it this way. Amazing. Amazing graphing. just the tactile nature of it. It's beautiful. And it's kind of shocking, this information to me, where you would expect, I think, that there'd be less snow with 2 weeks last winter. I mean, think about that. 2 weeks last winter? There's only 52 weeks in the year, and winter's not the whole year. I mean, I don't know exactly how many weeks winter usually is, but I think it's something like, I don't know, 16 weeks or something, right? Am I doing that wrong? No, 14 weeks? 14 weeks, right? But if you're getting 2 weeks less of that, but still getting as much snow as you were previously, or even more, it's weird.
Positive between snowfall and time. How could this be?
You don't think PBS Nova has Microsoft Office? Maybe that's it. You could be right.
Snowfall staying the same while temperatures increase.
You can get warmer, and we have, and it can still snow a lot because the temperature still remains below freezing. And it's just less below freezing.
Snowfall is responding, not just to temperature, it's also responding to how much moisture is available.
It turns out that warmer temperatures have varied effects on snowfall rates. Some areas of Alaska, the fastest warming U.S. state, have seen record-smashing, roof-crushing amounts of snow this year, while in parts of the Southwest, Southeast, and Midwest, snowfall has been in steep decline. In Boston, the impact of rising temperatures can be counterintuitive. One reason is that hotter air can hold more moisture, which will fall as snow when it's cold enough and rain when it's not. This also means that winter storms, when they occur, may actually bring more snow than they used to.
It's been found that more of our precipitation is falling in large events. Not necessarily that we're getting more when it rains.
Problem with this is that because of that, it doesn't do the same things that it used to functionally for the Earth in terms of like ice pack on mountains and other things like that. They don't build up the same way, and it increases other problems, right? In terms of water access during the warmer months, right? Among other things.
Pores is essentially what it looks like.
This could explain the anomalous winter season in Anchorage, Alaska. The 49th state is getting warmer and warmer, but it's still cold enough to snow. Today is Christmas. It's nearly...
It looks super Christmassy, aside from no snow. Everybody looks... it's kind of sad. And I mean, maybe it's just because I grew up in one of the northern states. But yeah, I feel like we've seen these sorts of scenes time and time again in the recent past of snowless Christmases. Poor snowmen on on grass. It's weird. It looks terrible. And it's also kind of creepy. Perhaps if people stopped lighting up their houses like their fucking nightclubs for Christmas, that would also help with this snow problem. I'm just thinking out loud. Okay. I don't know if any of you have seen some of those videos online, but some people just, and I mean, I've seen some in person. It's out of control. Okay, let's look at this to stay on the topic of snow. This is from a year ago. The world's glaciers are melting at a record level due to climate change. It's from NBC News.
Today's UN report details the relentless advance of climate change on every continent. The world's glaciers shrinking at a dramatic pace right before our eyes.
It's not just that we're losing ice, but we're losing ice faster and faster, and that has consequences.
The 40 glaciers tracked worldwide lost an average of more than 4.2 feet of ice in a year. In Europe, the melting of the glaciers in the Alps is off the charts. Little winter snow and a summer heat wave, exacerbated by dark dust from the Saharan desert that trapped heat, accelerating the record melt. Scientist Matthias Hunt showing NBC News the devastating impact in January.
You can see it, and it's much more obvious than seeing just a graph with rising temperatures.
In Switzerland, for the first time, no snow survived the summer melt season, even at the very highest sites. In this country, Montana's Glacier National Park is in danger of losing its namesake ice. The park has lost 85% of its ice area. That was 5 years ago. Today, the government says the park is warming at twice the global average. All this glacier melt contributing to record sea level rise. Here,
And the fact is, okay, if we're talking about January, right, in 2023, it sounds like, unless this was 2022, honestly, I'd have to look at this. Either way, we know what's happened in the last year and a half, or year, however long exactly it's been. I'd have to look at this. No, I didn't even look at the exact date. It just has a year, and I was assuming exactly 1 year ago. Might have been older than that. But I guess my point is 2023 was hottest on record. 2024 is currently a massive outlier year in terms of heat, and things have only continued to get worse with this. Okay, let's talk about... No, I somehow... Why isn't... You know, no. No, it's fine. That's what I was doing it. Okay. Yeah, let's go to this. This is from 2 months ago. Australia's Great Barrier Reef has been hit by a major coral bleaching event. We talked about this when it happened. Australia's Great Barrier Reef has been hit by a major coral bleaching event with results consistent with patterns of heat stress, a government agency has said. Yeah, looks fucked. The Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority, the agency tasked with monitoring the reef's health, confirmed that a widespread, often called mass coral bleaching event is unfolding.
Oh, it's devastating, you know, because especially at the Keppels, which is where I was recently, you know, we've seen a lot of recovery on these reefs. There are some incredible spots, and to see a lot of these reefs bleached, and, you know, they're potentially going to, you know, lots of the corals might die, and then, you know, we're going to have to follow them through several years of recovery. Yeah, it's just really quite heartbreaking. I am in tears.
It really is. And I'm not there to witness it. I'm just seeing it secondhand here. We all are. Whoa, why did my monitor just... The fuck? Hold on. This is unacceptable. Please hold. Oh, Jesus Christ. I just lost my monitor. I just lost one of my... It's just not working now. Son of a bitch. Hold the phone. Why and how is this happening? Please stop. Okay, that's gonna be a problem. Hold on, meet my flashlight out here. Please work. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh my god. That was really gonna put a real negative vibe on the stream with down monitor. Okay, it's working. Okay. Not that it's alright. Wouldn't have been doable, it just would have been incredibly annoying. Alright, let's look at this. This is from a month ago. So that was 2 months ago, this is a month ago. Where corals are turning white and dying after a record heat. I think this one, I can't remember. I think this is one was relating to the
future of the ocean's coral reefs is more perilous than ever. That's according to the US National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. In the last few minutes, it's announced what it calls the fourth mass coral bleaching event is already underway. Well, this is what's at risk. Mile after mile of coral reef slowly turning white or even dying out altogether. By some estimates, around 50% of coral has been lost in the last 20 years. Well, let's get more on this development. Let's speak to our science reporter, Georgina Renard, who's in the newsroom for us. And Georgina, welcome here to the programme. This seems quite a disturbing new report. Bring us right up to date.
Yes, that's right. So what these US officials are saying is that we're now in the fourth global mass coral bleaching event. The first one was in 1998, and we've had two since then, and now we're in the fourth one. Now, what this means is coral is this very sensitive animal. It lives often in shallow waters, but when the water it's living in gets too hot, it gets stressed. It expels an algae that lives inside it, and then it can turn white, and often it can die. This is interesting also because we've been seeing for months these broken climate records, ocean heat driving up, and really seeing unprecedented levels of warming in the oceans that's partly driven by climate change, or mostly driven by climate change, and also by El Nino, this natural climate fluctuation that started.
That's what people keep saying. I'm not entirely convinced by that. Wait, why is my chat gone on? Oh, there it is. Okay, that's weird. I've never seen that one happen. Okay, now I got my chat back. Okay, good. Sorry, I may have missed a lot of chats. And that's on me. Wow, we're only 2 away from a third support character. Let's look at this. This is from a day ago. So this is present day, where in Thailand the record temperatures that have been seen in its seas have also caused their corals to bleach.
Once vibrant and colorful, these corals in Thailand's eastern Gulf Coast have turned white. It's a phenomenon known as coral bleaching and is a sign of deteriorating health. Scientists say it's due to the rising sea surface temperatures, which hit record highs this month amid a regional heat wave.
Now, as we look through all of this right now, one thing in terms of coral, before we move on, I just want us to all remember, they're basically the very bottom of the food chain. Like, on the planet, right? Because in many ways, the ocean is sort of the basis of this, right? But in terms of just the ocean specifically, they are the very bottom foundation of the rest of life in the ocean. Without them, it's really it's not a good look for them. And by them, I mean ocean creatures.
The coral reefs act as both a food resource and habitat, which is why deteriorating reefs can have a significant impact on marine biodiversity. Rising temperatures are not only impacting marine life, but also the livelihoods of local communities. Songmei Sengsura is a local fisherman.
The coral reef is my heart and soul when it is bleached, healthy, and abundant. When you go out fishing at night, you can easily catch squid and fish. Near the coral reef, earn a living that was nice and easy. You wouldn't eat coral? Well, it's not for you to eat, okay? So I would point that out. I'd like to point that out. Okay. Now, we've also seen in the last few weeks a great number of very strong winds, tornadoes, and other sort of devastating sort of just wind events in the Midwest and South, specifically Texas. But yeah, let's look through some of these. This is from 2 weeks in Nebraska. I'm sorry, 2 weeks ago in Nebraska. Jesus Christ. I've seen this before and it's still fucked up. What the actual fuck? Oh my god. Come on. Okay, that's like the third time I've seen this video and I'm still just completely blown away by the power of that tornado. It's just wild. It looks like it looks like a movie. Doesn't look right. All right. Now let's look at some of the things that happened in the last 4 or 5 days here in the Midwest.
This morning, severe storms sweeping through the South and Midwest, bringing tornadoes to the Central Plains, along with heavy rains and high winds.
No! Oh my gosh!
The possible twisters touching down in Oklahoma. And in Kansas, destructive storms raked the I-70 corridor.
Oh, look at it out there on the road.
Powerful winds clocking in at 100 miles per hour, along with baseball-sized hail. Drivers taking shelter at this gas station. Damage from severe storms also a concern in the South and Southwest. It's all coming at a difficult time for Texas, as thousands of homes and businesses in Houston are still without power, days after a deadly windstorm tore through the area late last week.
Oh, there it goes.
Residents now battling blistering heat and humidity as temperatures continue to soar after power outages plunged some neighborhoods into darkness. The storms also impacting many schools. Administrators making plans to transfer students from the hardest hit schools to others if needed.
If we don't have power, we're going to look at the situation. If it's easy to move the kids at one school to another, then we'll do that.
And with about 200,000 people still without power here, the threat this week continues to be the heat, with temperatures expected to be in the high 80s and 90s all week long. We spoke to...
Okay. Yeah, all right, let's keep recapping. We looked at this as well. Well, we didn't actually, I don't think we saw that video. We saw some of the footage from there. But we did watch this. This is from 3 days ago in Iowa. This footage is just shocking.
We're gonna miss the right side. Debris coming down! Deploy the subsonic soon! We get the path of it!
Can I just throw it out the window or what?
No, let's just wait. Whoa!
Wow. Oh, we gotta go.
Yes, sir. Oh my god. It's gonna hit those wood farms. Parallel it. This road will have. Okay, it's going back right? Yeah. That's right. Destroyed that window. Look at that window. Shredded that window. Okay. The window's gonna fall over. Look, there it goes. Yeah, windmill debris in there. Let's go! Is this up? Oh my board, just look at those. Roll the window down. Give it back to Matt.
Feels like people are trying to summon Gabby in chat. Hopefully it will work. Hasn't seen her in a while. If you're listening to this, Gabby, we miss you, and we hope you're well. Okay. Release the Pepsi orb things. Maybe that'll fix it. Okay. Let's just look at some of the effects of this. This is from a couple of days ago, from the fucking Today Show, where apparently, and I did not realize the number had increased. I knew that at least one person had been injured, but apparently at least 3 people have been dead. At least 3 people have been killed by the tornadoes that you just witnessed in Iowa from a few days ago. Ah, boy.
There she is. Tornado on the ground.
This morning, devastation in the heartland after another outbreak of violent twisters and deadly storms.
That thing is growing.
At least 18 tornadoes tearing across Iowa Tuesday, with more in Wisconsin and Minnesota.
By the way, good to see people showing up here in the... Still is technically the first half of the show. PB, My Dogs. Oh, Nadia just showed up. I feel like I saw more people. Del Sol Verde. Yeah, I saw you. If I missed you, I'm sorry.
Wind gusts toppling trees, tossing cars, even knocking over a semi-truck. And the twisters ripping through wind farms, turbines crumpling, catching on fire, and leaving craters, and in the town of Greenfield, destroying entire neighborhoods. It took a direct hit from a large tornado, with one official saying most of the town...
That is wild. That is wild.
...on fire and leaving craters.
Like this footage of this drone just kind of going through the path of that tornado. Oh my god.
And in the town of Greenfield, destroying entire neighborhoods. It took a direct hit from a large tornado, with one official saying most of...
Everything in its path is just destroyed. You can just see it. Ah, God.
Town is gone.
We watched it go over. As soon as we could get out of there, I went home. I checked on my wife and my daughter. Covered up a couple windows, and I come over here to my son's house, and his is way worse than mine.
Many homes destroyed, like this farmhouse, the owners yelling for help from under the debris.
Are you in shelter? All right, nobody's hurt?
This man pinned under rubble when a storm hit without warning.
And tried to run into the house, got hit with some debris and it dropped me. So I just turtled up behind the house and then the whole garage came down on top of me and I got dug out. I was probably under it for like a half an hour.
The Iowa State Patrol confirming casualties. Tuesday's onslaught, just the latest bout of brutal weather in recent weeks, from damaging floods in Nebraska to a sweltering heat wave in.
Okay, don't get ahead of me here, okay? All right. Let's look at this from 2 days ago, just to cap the tornado coverage. You haven't noticed we started with glaciers and snow, moved to the oceans with barrier reef. Well, not just the Great Barrier Reef, the reefs in general. Now we're talking tornadoes and wind. Might be figuring out the pattern. Happy after Thursday. Oh, Sticks Dragon, good to see you.
The Midwestern United States is still reeling after a cluster of tornadoes killed and injured several people in Iowa Tuesday. The powerful storm system has devastated the community of Greenfield. The small town of about 2,000 people is 55 miles southwest of the capital, Des Moines. As you can see here, a tornado destroyed homes and businesses, overturned cars, and even ripped the bark off of trees. Governor Kim Reynolds called the scene horrific. At least 18 tornadoes were reported in Iowa alone on Tuesday. More severe storms are expected this week
19?
in the south to the northeastern U.S. CBS News senior weather producer David Parkinson joins me for more. David, is this type of tornadic, and is that how you pronounce it, activity typical for this time of year?
Yeah, it is actually a little bit. The end of May is actually one of the times when we see the most violent tornadic activity, and that's really what we saw there. The official determination from the National Weather Service is it's at least an EF3. I would bet a good amount of money that they will upgrade this to an EF4 when they finish doing the survey. They're still out doing it. But one of the interesting things is the last 10, 11 days of May is actually the time of year where more than a sixth of all of the EF5s we've ever had in the U.S. have taken place. So it's really that late in May season where the air masses are clashing.
So what he's saying is, hold on, let me look at my fucking calendar of depression. It's the 24th. Yeah. 7 days. Yep, I was right. So we're literally in the very beginning of the very worst time for tornadoes. We've already seen all of this. And honestly, there's been more. I just didn't feel like we should look at literally everything. Just get like a, like a slice of it. But holy fuck, this is not good. Next 7 days are hopefully not going to be that bad. But if we just go by the statistics this guy just threw at us, well, I'd say I'm a little concerned.
We have all of the ingredients to have a volatile atmosphere and a really destructive pattern, and that's some of what we saw in Greenfield. I don't think it was an EF5, but we certainly saw winds that when you take a look at the damage, the cinder block buildings, the really well-built construction that was just flattened, that to me says EF3, EF4 winds, closing in on 200 miles an hour probably.
So this is typical, even though the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration says there have been more than 300 reports of tornadoes so far this year. Is that atypical, that number so far in this year?
So what is atypical is the relentlessness of the tornadoes. So I went back and I checked the stats, and it actually goes back into April to have a single day that we have not had a severe weather report anywhere in the United States. In fact, let me actually go back and pull this exact date here for you.
Oh,
the
that's gonna be
24th
depressing.
of April. That is the last day we didn't have any severe weather in the U.S.
Honestly, that feels right. For anybody who watches this show on the regular, I'm sure that you also have that feeling in your gut already as well. But holy shit, dude. What the heck? That's a full month. That is a full month of 0 days without extreme weather events. That's bad. That's not good.
very unusual. Usually we'll have a day or two break, but the atmosphere has just been charged up, and it's been all over the country. It's been in the Northeast, it's been in the South, it's been in the plains, and so that also is unique because usually this time of year it's the plains that get absolutely targeted, but we've seen these storms roll all the way across, and that has been something that's been unique. The other thing that we have seen, which is interesting, John, is if you take a look at the trend line over the past several years, we have seen more severe weather, but that is not to say, you know, that's over the past 10 years, 2019 still the high water mark. But realistically, whenever you have an atmosphere that is warmer, it's going to be more volatile. There's going to be more.
Okay. Yeah. So the hotter we make the Earth, the more this shit is going to happen. Thank you for that, sir. A lot of those statistics really sucked. Those are going to stick in my head for a little while, I think. 7 days. These next 7 days are when all, not all, what did he say? 1/6 of all of the EF5 tornadoes in U.S. history that have ever been recorded. And we've gone an entire month where every single day there was a different extreme weather event in the United States. Okay. Let's look at this, just to cap up the wind stuff. I forgot I had this here. Let's watch this. This happened in Mexico a day ago, and actually 2 days ago now.
At least 9 people are dead, dozens of others injured after a strong gust of wind toppled a stage at a campaign rally in Mexico. The governor of the state where it happened confirmed the tragedy and said among the deceased was a child. The collapse happened during an event attended by presidential long-shot candidate Jorge Alvarez Maínez. Campaign events are being held this week and next in anticipation of Mexico's June 2nd presidential, state, and municipal elections.
Now, an extremely powerful wind gust came in, knocked down that stage on top of the people that were on it, and like you heard there, killing 9 people, including a child. It's fucking devastating. To cap the wind stuff. Okay. Now let's talk about floods. What do you say? Let's talk about water. And let's talk about water being places people don't want it to be. Let's go back a month and look at a little place called Dubai. Footage shared by Emirati state media shows a car being submerged by floodwaters and an aeroplane plowing through an inundated runway. As heavy rain wreaked havoc across parts of the Gulf region. People were seen moving through flooded city streets by on rubber boats and wading through water at a metro station. Jesus. Remember, Dubai, not usually a place with a lot of water, historically. It's the heaviest rainfall in 75 years. Alright, let's move on to, let's see. Yeah, let's do this. So that was a month ago. Okay, yep. That one. Now let's go to a week later, where in Kenya, catastrophic flooding left, I think, hundreds of thousands of people displaced, if I'm not mistaken. More than 170 people have died across Kenya since mid-March when the rainy season started, causing flooding, landslides, and damage to infrastructure. 3 major roads in the capital were temporarily closed due to flooding. Locals say rescue efforts have been slow due to a lack of equipment to dig through the debris. With bare hands and basic tools, desperate families have been digging through rubble to search for loved ones who were swept away in the floods. Eunice Wanjiku held up a soiled red jacket as she scoured the area. That's her mattress, there's a broken bed, that was a roof over there, we can see some of her belongings. That is why we suspect, it's her. Oh, God, that is rough. And we also saw a bunch of shit. Like, for instance, in response to this, the government went and started destroying people's houses that were in potential floodplains and giving them $75 to restart their lives with and things like that. It's wild. Now let's go to another week later to Brazil. This is from 2 weeks ago, where Brazil had historic floods in multiple cities in the southeast, in the Grande del Sul region. Let's look at this footage.
Now, at least 83 people are dead after days of heavy rain in southern Brazil, and more than 100 are missing. Another 122,000 people have been displaced by floods, which have destroyed roads and bridges in several cities, triggered landslides, and caused a dam to partially collapse. The governor of Brazil's Rio Grande do Sul state has described it as being in a war scenario. It is the fourth time they've been hit by flooding in the last year. Aisha Tull has more.
This is what days of pounding rain has done to the southernmost region of Brazil, the city of Canoas, just outside the state capital. Boats having to replace cars, and helicopters becoming a small beacon of hope as people await rescue. A body-worn camera captures the moment a soldier uses a brick to break the roof of a house to free a baby trapped by floodwater. A scene now too familiar for the people of Rio Grande do Sul, as the military and volunteers frantically race to save others who need help.
I am 53 years old, and this is the first time our house is flooded. It has never flooded before. We never thought we would go through this.
At least 80 people are known to have died. More than 100 are still missing. And over 80 people are known to have died. More than
That picture is haunting. This one really creeps me out. Okay, now let's move on to a week later. Actually, no, this was the same week, wasn't it? It was. So this was the same week as the flood in Brazil. North of Brazil, in Texas, they were hit by floods which affected 8 million people, affecting power, among other things. Yeah, let's just look at some of this footage.
Good evening. We are coming on the air with dramatic rescues in the state of Texas. Deadly flooding submerging entire neighborhoods. More than 560 people had to be rescued or evacuated by first responders. And you can see what it looks like from above, from the air. All these houses underwater. You can see it here from the ground. Look at this. That is a street sign. The water is nearly to the top of it, just for some perspective, with some 15 million now bracing for more. From Dallas to South Dakota tomorrow. The risk? Another round of devastating tornadoes with another serious storm system moving in fast. We have team coverage tonight, starting with Priscilla Thompson in Houston.
Okay. We don't have to watch all this. Many of us were, at least to some degree, here for some of this footage in Texas. It was pretty incredible. And then they got hit by, like they were saying, more tornadoes, more high winds. We didn't even include that because it was kind of more recent, honestly. It happened in the last week. So I figured, might as well just kind of leave that one out. Let's see, what was I doing next? Oh, okay, let's quickly look at this. How far am I into the stream, by the way? An hour 43. Jesus. Maybe I should take a break now? Just that way. Honestly, nah, it'd be fine. I'll just stop here. Okay. Let's look at this one. This is from 9 days ago, where Lake Victoria, which is also in Kenya, is apparently continuing to flood, causing more Kenyans to flee areas surrounding it.
Florence O'War wades through water to get to her house in Kisumu County. She's been staying in a shelter for the displaced. Recent torrential rains have killed more than 200 people and left many like her homeless. She says her house is falling apart. Her belongings and crops have been destroyed, but floods are not new to this area.
Since 2019, we keep moving. Every year we have to go to the shelters. We've got kids, and sometimes we just decide to stay home and deal with the water. But over the years, it's just too much.
Lake Victoria, the world's largest tropical lake, often overflows into neighborhoods when...
Maybe we shouldn't build in floodplains. I mean, it's great advice. We've done it historically because of the farming benefits, right? To some degree. But because of the changing climate, those areas are now, you know, flooding in ways that weren't happening historically, causing, well, to some degree or another, a great deal of planning to go awry in terms of human locations. So yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong about that. We've already done it. We've already built in floodplains. We got to figure out how to leave and or protect those floodplains one way or another. Hopefully more protect than leave, but you know, unfortunately to some degree, as things progress in this freaking freaking ecological catastrophe happening in front of us, is like the first one is happening more than I'd like to see. People are just literally having to fucking leave. Anyway, just figured we'd look at that because it's actually kind of separate from what we were talking about previously. It's a, you know, Kenya's really having a tough time. Okay, I'm going to pause it there. We've got more environmental stuff to look at, but in contravention of our usual plans, because we've gone so far already, I'm going to take a quick intermission. Well, I hope everybody's been enjoying the stream so far. If you haven't already, remember to hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. If you'd like to help support the stream in other ways, well, you have one great option, and that is by becoming a Galactic producer. Many have come before you in the recent past, and you can follow in their footsteps. For a few American dollars a month, access to space benefits unseen by the rest of the goddamn galaxy await you. Anyways, chat, enjoy this little space intermission. Grab yourself a drink, dip in the pool, perhaps a snack, and I will be right back.
Do you know what we're here for?
A fucking bitch.
I see another dragon in chat. A geode dragon. Ooh, and Anarchist Mungus slipped in here too, I think. Okay. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Okay. Actually, no, I'll give you a little bit more of a break. I'll let you can hang out here. Here at the Galactic UN. Is my stream the problem, or just your eyes are hurting? I know we have bright colors in this stream often, and I guess I didn't consider whether or not it would be painful for people's eyes. I just thought it'd be colorful and fun to look at. Hope I'm not causing anybody any sort of eye problems. Okay. Alright, chat. Well, that's it for the intermission. We got more stuff to look at. And we didn't actually finish our environmental portion of this stream. We've got more. We have got more. Because what did we do? We looked at the glaciers a little bit. We looked at the ocean by way of the coral. We looked at tornadoes and extreme winds. We looked at floods. But your eyes are just hurting. Okay, okay, that's good to know. Alright. Well, let's look at this. Let's look at a few of these. These are called landslides, if you're not familiar. This was from 3 months ago in California, where atmospheric river causes heavy rain and mudslides.
Look at this slide. Oh my gosh. Look at that truck caught in the middle of it there.
Do you remember this? This freaking Tahoe just stuck in the mud. Just ridiculous. It's comical. It's so ridiculous. And yet terrifying at the same time.
First came the rain, then came the mudslides.
Wow. What a mess.
And that's hardly the worst of it.
This is the foundation of 10334 Caribou Lane, and this is where the house sits now.
It was like thunder, like, and then the sound of trees, I thought, snapping like twigs. And it was just this house, just completely disintegrating.
Overnight in Southern California and throughout the day.
Now you're probably saying, you know what, StreamLord? It's caused by rain. So why didn't you do it before? Well, partly because I just really needed that break, but also it's a different effect, right, than just normal flooding, I would say, because it causes the entire, not always, I mean, you know, but can really, I guess floods also reshape the landscape. You know, just pretend like they're different, okay? It would really help me out. Okay. Let's look at this. This is from 12 hours ago, where hundreds are feared dead after a massive landslide in Papua New Guinea. Earlier today.
We really need your help.
An emergency response is underway after a massive landslide flattened dozens of homes in a remote village in northern Papua New Guinea. More than 50 homes, many with people still asleep inside, were buried when the landslide hit at around 3 a.m. local time. Residents say estimates of the death toll were above 100, although officials have not confirmed that figure. The country's prime minister says authorities are responding to the disaster and he will release more information when it becomes available.
It's a horrible things that happened in the history of our electorate in the province and in the Papua New Guinea, I guess, because such is never happened in the history of our country. And this is happened today, and this is a place that covered by the debris. As you can see, this is destruction.
Yeah. Hundreds of people in Papua New Guinea killed by that landslide, just devastating this community. Rough. Okay, well, we are at current now, but we have more to look at. However, I thought we'd do it a little differently than usual. Usually we start off with this kind of stuff. Today I figured we'd end it with this kind of stuff. Where there's like a little bit of a discussion of what we're looking at right now. This is from 5 days ago. DW, Germany. Extreme weather is battering Europe.
Well, cleanup work has begun across Western Europe after days of heavy rains triggered massive flooding. This has inundated areas from the Netherlands to Italy and France. Here in Germany, officials say the southwestern state of Saarland saw the worst flooding in nearly 30 years. Heavy downpours caused dikes to breach in several areas, leaving streets underwater and homes ruined. Residents in northeastern Belgium have also begun cleaning up after experiencing what the country's Prime Minister called the worst floods in the region's history. I'd like to welcome Professor Marco Morani. He's the director of the Research Centre on Climate Change Impact at the University of Padua in Italy. Professor, welcome to you. Before we move on to, I guess, some of the effects and causes of this, I just wanted to discuss with you the floods in northern Italy that have been happening over the last few days where you are. Could you just bring us up to speed on what the situation is like there now?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, first of all.
It's been a difficult period the last 3 days. There have been heavy downpours. To give you an idea, in a matter of 2 days, in some areas, the equivalent of the whole month of May on average has been received. So it's a large amount, very large amount of water, and you see the images now on video. It's been northern Italy, the Lombardy and Veneto in particular, have been heavily impacted. There have been breaches in levees and flooding. 2 bridges have been swept away near Vicenza, northeastern Italy. So it's been quite a bit of damage.
Yes.
And the event has been quite extraordinary. In some areas, we associated with a return period, a frequency of about 200 to 300 years. So on average, we get this type of events only between every 200 and 300 years.
I hate that statistic. Been hearing a lot of real shitty statistics today on this stream. I mean, good, like they're good to know, right? But god damn it, do I hate them. Every 300 years. We missed a bunch of these. I think the only one of these floods that we actually looked at and or weather events that are happening in Europe in the last week or so was the one that happened in Poland, where they got hit by that massive hailstorm, which then melted and turned into massive floods, inundating, what was it? Can't even remember the city. Okay, and it's only May. Exactly. Well, we're getting to that. Don't hold on to your boots right now there, Jules T. Okay. Oh, Donald James X has shown up. Good to see you. Did I miss anybody else who showed up? I think I've said hello to everybody. Okay. Let's look at this, which is, well, it's disturbing. That's the only way to put it. This is from 3 days ago. From Wyon. Global warming. The Thwaites Doomsday Glacier is melting quicker than expected. 3 days ago. 1, 2, 3 days ago.
Scientists studying glaciers in Antarctica have made a gravely concerning discovery. Thwaites, known as the Doomsday Glacier, seem to be losing glacier mass quicker than previous projections. The implication spells climate catastrophe worse than we have anticipated. The study, conducted by researchers from the University of California, Irvine, has unearthed the current of high-pressure seawater miles beneath those solid ice to be much warmer and faster than previously projected. According to lead research Eric Rignett, the warmth and pace of these currents suggests that they will fall apart at a quicker pace as rising temperatures take firm hold of the global climate. The glacier has...
Terrible. I hate this. I really do. So yeah. So yeah, like 1 year ago, they're basically, you know, in a year, things have somehow gotten worse than even was expected. It was already expected that it was going to get worse. You know what I'm saying? Because scientists already had it in their head that things are going to get worse, right? We all kind of, at least anybody with a brain on their fucking their shoulders, was like, yeah, it's probably going to get worse if we don't do anything. It got worse than that. That's what they're saying, and I don't like that.
Under observation for years, being used to study the effects of man-made climate change. Part of the vast Antarctic ice sheet is regarded as Antarctica's most unstable glacier, a reputation which has earned in the Moncure Doomsday Glacier. If the entire glacier were to melt, sea level across the globe would flood major coastal regions beyond what was previously anticipated. The level of seawater could rise by over 2 feet And the glacier's loss could be a catalyst for much faster disappearance of ice sheets, as it acts as a natural dam to glaciers deeper into the Antarctic.
So yeah, we've been talking about, we've honestly been talking about this a lot from different angles, right? Like recently we're talking about the slowing of the North Atlantic current. And we really have no choice but to start making some drastic changes if we don't want to start having to be forced to make those changes against our will, essentially, if you get what I'm saying here. Change our activities as humans, but we don't have to literally exodus from different parts of the world, right? And somebody, who was it? Jules? I think Jules said this. Something about, and it's only May. So, yeah, that's a great point. It is currently the 25th of May now, across much of the world, aside from parts of America, and I guess Mexico, and the rest of, you get what I'm saying. The Western Hemisphere. Anyway, we've got, what? We just talked about how there's, what, 7 full days of the worst possible tornadoes potentially happening, right? Statistically. Now, we've also mentioned that hurricane season hasn't started probably a handful of times, even though we've been seeing some just incredible rain and wind events in the south. It's about to start. It's a week away. It's literally 1 week. The second that window he was talking about, how the last 10 days of April are the last 10 days of May are the very worst for tornadoes. Well, on June 1st, that's when hurricane season starts. So we'll have the tornadoes end, and then hurricane season will immediately kick off. It's come faster than I was even thinking it would. But yeah, let's look at this. This is from 9 hours ago, 2024 hurricane season. More storms will hit the U.S. this year than ever before, according to the NOAA. The NOAA is the
Hurricane
National
Otis.
Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, if you're unaware.
Hurricane Otis seemed to come out of nowhere, decimating Acapulco after rapidly intensifying from a Category 1 to a Category 5 in a single day. That nightmare scenario could happen again and again this year.
This season is looking to be an extraordinary one in a number of ways.
Never have American forecasters been so certain of a violent hurricane season, calling for 8 to 13 hurricanes with 4 to 7 major storms of Category 3 or higher, all fueled by record warm ocean temperatures in the Atlantic.
They are equivalent to what we would normally see during August, and they are dramatically warmer than in 2005.
2005 was the year that brought Katrina.
Again, the rescue worker giving the thumbs up.
Which killed over 1,800 people and caused upwards of $125 billion in damage. Since then, climate change has supercharged the ingredients for hurricanes.
The most intense hurricanes will become more intense. That was a projection of the last IPCC report. At the same time, the rainfall associated with hurricanes is also projected to become more intense.
Canada's Hurricane Centre warns storms could also be stronger as they make their way north, like 2022's Hurricane Fiona, the costliest weather event in Atlantic Canadian history. The risks haven't stopped people from flocking to the coast. Places like Florida have witnessed a population boom in the last decade, even as some home insurance providers pull out entirely.
So some insurers are cutting back, and that's making it challenging for some homeowners to find coverage in these high-risk states.
That will all but...
Yeah, we've been talking about that too. I mean, homeowners insurance premiums have been getting jacked up for basically everybody with homeowners insurance. Canceled for people who are probably the ones who need it most. And yeah, you know, you're seeing insurance companies pull out of entire areas, in fact. Okay, well, let's look at this. To wrap up the climate coverage for today. Well done making it through that one, by the way, chat. That one was rough. Kind of compiling it all together makes me really sad. But it felt necessary. It really did. Good God. Good God, chat, we have some work to do, don't we? Alright, let's end it with this. Which is I guess a slightly positive, not completely doomerific story about a tree.
So today's mission was to climb up into the General Sherman tree and do a general health inspection and
so
specifically
huge.
look for any
Good
evidence
God.
of potential beetle attack in the tree. When we climbed up, we didn't know what level of beetle activity was going to be in the General Sherman tree. We found a little bit of activity, but on the whole, it seems to be a very healthy tree that's able to defend off any beetle attack. We're documenting some trees that are actually dying from kind of combination of drought and fire that have weakened them to a point where they're not able to defend themselves from the beetle attack. But what we were doing today was testing whether the drones could be used and whether satellite imagery could be used to see what we are seeing with our direct observations.
It's just
and that would,
incredible.
if successful, would allow managers to be able to detect and monitor over much larger areas.
The most significant threat to giant sequoias is climate-driven wildfires that we've seen over the last 5 years, which have killed up to 20% of all the giant sequoias. But we certainly don't want to be caught by surprise by a new threat, which is why we're studying these beetles now.
They have really withstood insect attacks for a lot of years. So why now? Why are we seeing this change? To what extent is it about droughts? To what extent is it about interactions with fire? There's a lot that we need to learn in order to ensure good stewardship of these trees for a long time.
Anyway, sorry, Chad. It's not as upbeat as we may have liked, but hey, the world's largest tree? Or maybe one of them. Maybe it's not the largest tree, but it's definitely one of the largest trees in the world. Is at least okay. I guess that means we're all fine, right? Okay, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, but just figured we'd kind of end it with that there. Bring it back to nature. It's not on fire, flooded, getting destroyed by wind or otherwise. Fucked by humans. Alright, now, some of you may have missed this story, so I'm going to do this one again. Just in case you missed it, because it's very relevant to our little space fams. Let's look at this. This is in space news. The United States has accused Russia of launching space weapons into orbit.
And what I'm tracking here is on May 16th, as you highlight, Russia launched a satellite into low Earth orbit that we assess is likely a counter space weapon, presumably capable of attacking other satellites in low Earth orbit. Russia deployed this new counter space weapon into the same orbit as a U.S. government satellite, and so assessments further indicate characteristics resembling previously deployed counter space payloads from 2019 and 2022. And so, you know, obviously that's something that we'll continue to monitor. Certainly, we would say that we have a responsibility to be ready to protect and defend the domain, the space domain, and ensure continuous and uninterrupted support to the joint and combined force. And we'll continue to balance the need to protect our interests in space with our desire to preserve a stable and sustainable space environment.
Okay, we need more safety in space and less shooty, more freedom. By freedom, I mean the freedom for me to take down Starlink satellites, things like that that are always getting in the goddamn way. Can you have a third emotional support character? Of course you can. Of course you can. Of course you can. Is that a 5? Okay. Alright. Now, I looked at part of this yesterday, but I think we should watch the later half of this today, because we keep talking about this place called Haiti, which is in the, you know, Caribbean area. And yeah, American policy has been pretty fucked in regards to it, and actually pretty determinative of what actually happens in Haiti, regardless of what what it might be that Haitians want. So I figured, well, let's just oh wait, don't start there. No, start here, please.
Very much. When the first flow of Haitian refugees were coming in the 1970s, 1980s, the response was to put them in Guantanamo Bay. In addition to that, to say they were carriers of AIDS, that they brought AIDS into the world. That completely destroyed the Haitian American community.
But when the Haitian refugees fled their country because of alleged political persecution, they were greeted with less than enthusiasm by the American government.
The U.S. used the AIDS pandemic to stigmatize Haitians by regulating their blood donations in the 1980s. In the 1990s, the United States intercepted hundreds of boats during the refugee crisis and sent thousands of Haitians.
Thank you. I know. You're right. You're right. I said it too. Now that you're saying it, I'm realizing I did say that. Thank you for calling me out. Good catch.
An island reeling from U.S. intervention in President Jean-Bertrand Aristide's administration. This is only a sample of how the U.S. spent a century intervening in Haiti, including propping up dictators and deposing leaders. And then there was the 2010 earthquake Haiti never truly recovered from that killed 220,000 people, leaving thousands more injured and disabled. There's also the U.S.'s decades-long habit of backing anti-democratic strongmen to lead the island that's led to this crisis. And so when foreign mercenaries shot and killed President Jean-Venel Moïse in July 2021, they intensified the island nation's chaos.
The people created Haiti, giving birth to freedom, giving birth to liberation, and literally cripple the powers that were colonizing the world. And because of that, Haiti continues to pay today. And the crisis, the current crisis in Haiti is linked to that fight. All the colonizing powers of the time could never forgive Haiti for disrupting the status quo.
And then there's the 1.4 million people, nearly half the country, at risk of famine.
Right now, we are in a place in Haiti where we never thought we will be.
Gerline has lost friends and family during this round of political unrest.
Unfortunately, my little cousin, who was on his way to work, only 22 years old, got killed. A friend also got killed, and her family got killed. So we are seeing an extreme level of insecurity. Every Haitian American in the United States or in the diaspora are afraid that they will receive that call or that text that tells them so-and-so has died or so-and-so hasn't been found, haven't been seen.
The next massive...
Hold on. I'm just gonna put us... Yeah, I think this.
Benefits when people from the African diaspora battle over immigration like this.
What we don't understand is that has always been the goal of the system, is to pit underserved, forgotten communities against each other while they profit off of it. There is this big misunderstanding that the immigrants are coming and they are taking whatever was supposed to go to Black communities.
For those who question how Blackness or even race can be a part of any U.S. immigration policy discussion, there's CBP-1. It's a controversial mobile app the U.S. requires asylees to use to submit their immigration application.
It was very clear that if you have dark skin, the technology could not recognize your face. So it wasn't in Haitian Creole, it's still not in French, where the majority of people from Africa do speak French as official languages.
The United States is the primary destination for Haitians. Between October 2020 and May 2023, U.S. authorities encountered Haitians at the southwest border 146,000 times. And yet, the U.S. rarely grants Haitians asylum. In fact, between October 2018...
Damn, that's fucked. Look at that. Completely just ignored.
In June 2021, it approved less than 5% of the request. For comparison, 4 of the 5 top U.S. asylum applicants are from Latin American countries, and their acceptance rates are higher.
I hate these graphs today. Have the worst graphs. I mean, they've been very informative, but frustrating. Yeah, it's a great, slick way to abuse facial recognition technology. Exactly. I mean, these are some of the things about, you know, technology that allow people to slip through cracks, and sometimes it just happens to coincide with policies that might be racist or punitive against LGBTQ people or religious minorities or the poor. I mean, the list goes on, right? And then governments can just blame the technology for some of these things happening, and it's, you know, obviously it's always a feature, not a bug. Anyway, what else do I have here? Oh, okay, we'll start with this. Okay, well, not start with, but we're going across the ocean, if you will. But we are going to start in Iran. This is from Zateo from a day ago, where Mehdi Hassan had an individual by the name of Trita Parsi come on and discuss the death of the Iranian president, among other things, Iranian.
I'm joined by the Executive Vice President of the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft, Trita Parsi. He's an award-winning author and an expert on US-Iran relations. Trita, thanks so much for coming on Mehdi Unfiltered. First off, what was your reaction to that news over the weekend when you heard the helicopter had gone down?
Well, the first thing was to try to figure out, is this just an accident or is there some foul play at hand there? Because as you mentioned, just recently you had this exchange of fire between Israel and Iran. And one of the things that were likely going to happen after that is that the Israelis would go back to doing their war with Iran behind the shadows, as they had covertly.
Assassinations. They've killed a lot of nuclear
plants. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. But I think after having seen the video of how bad the weather was, etc., I think most people have concluded this probably was an accident, a combination of weather, incompetence as well.
Sorry, I forgot that they started off this conversation with other things. It's really not important.
The regime has an interest in not admitting it. Moreover, if that was the case...
Whoops. That went too far.
Responded by going even higher up and assassinating both the foreign minister. And on top of that, the Israelis established a new equation.
Good point.
They did not restore deterrence. And on top of that, the Israelis not establish a new equation that would show that the Iranians failed. For instance, there could have been anything else but an accident. Because if there, for instance, had been an Israeli hand in all of this, first of all, it would show that the Iranians failed with their attack last month. They did not establish a new equation.
Good point.
They did not restore deterrence. And on top of that, the Israelis actually responded by going even higher up and assassinating both a foreign minister and a president. Now, having said that, there's no evidence that the Israelis were behind this. But even if they were, or even if there was a suspicion, the regime has an interest in not admitting it. Moreover, if that was the case and they had to admit it, it would also mean that they would have to respond.
Yes.
And that's not something they want to do.
So, the United States, which has done its own fair share of assassinations in the past, Donald Trump killed Qasem Soleimani. The US offered its condolences for the death of President Raisi, but it didn't hold back in its criticisms of Raisi, of the Iranian government. How is the prospective change in leadership inside of Iran being treated here in Washington, D.C., being treated by the Biden administration?
I think one of the things that happened when Biden came in is that the regime at the time, remember, it was the Rouhani government. They had held back, they had stayed in the JCPOA, they had moved away from some of the restrictions, unfortunately, but by and large, the key elements of the JCPOA were kept in place. That was all done because of the expectation that Biden will come in and he will go straight back into
He said
the
he
deal.
would.
Instead, he didn't. He wasted 10 weeks negotiating with who? The Israelis, to see if they would be fine with him going back in some way, shape, or form. And beyond that, a negotiation strategy that was actually based on using Trump's sanctions as leverage to get a longer and stronger deal. This had a profound impact on the regime's perspective because it showed, first of all, in their view, they concluded that the United States is incapable of providing sustained sanctions relief, which then makes the attractiveness of a negotiation profoundly
Which is a big
less.
thing for Iran.
Of course,
Sanctions
of
relief.
course.
We've just seen helicopters crash.
Critical. But it did another thing. It left people with the impression that it actually wasn't Trump that was the aberration. It was Obama that was the aberration. Because as we have seen now, a lot of Biden's policies are just a continuation of Trump's foreign policy. We see that on the Abraham Accords, in which they're bending over backwards to get a deal between the Saudis and the Israelis. We've seen that on the JCPOA to a large extent, and we're certainly seeing it on China. This is highly problematic because it really undermined the argument and the credibility of those in Iran who said there has to be a way of finding some sort of accommodation with the West.
Now it's they're all the same. So I'm old enough to remember, Trina, as I'm sure you are, when Mahmoud Ahmadinejad was president of Iran, all we heard about was Ahmadinejad, Ahmadinejad, Ahmadinejad. Now, all I hear from people is, who cares who the president of Iran is? He doesn't have any power. Which is funny because you told us for years that this guy was going to wipe Israel off the map. Now we're told only focus on Khamenei, ignore Raisi, ignore the presidency. So let me ask you this. What is the role of the Iranian president? Can we expect any big changes during the 50-day presidency of Mohammad Mokbar, the acting president right now, till elections happen?
So the role of the president depends on the president. With Ahmadinejad, he clearly was a person with very high views of himself and who wanted to make a mark and defied Khamenei tremendously, particularly towards the end of his term. As you may remember, he actually refused to go to work for 10 days because of a conflict that he had. So he was sitting at home sulking. You saw what Rouhani did. He pushed very hard for an opening with the West and the JCPOA. Raisi was selected by the hardliners precisely because he doesn't have an ounce of creativity or a mind of his own. He was essentially just an implementer. He was someone that was implementing the consensus of the conservatives rather than coming into the presidential office with a mind of his own, with a view of his own, with an agenda of his own.
But how does that fit with the idea that he was also going to succeed Khamenei? How can he succeed Khamenei if he's an
Okay. Well, this is actually a really great conversation. I guess we might have time to listen to more of it. How much do I have left on my list right now? Maybe we'll listen to a little more. Honestly, this is a really good conversation. We're going to listen to more of this. But the fact is I think it's important to kind of dissect the government of Iran to some degree, right? Because of the fact that it's very relevant to the current geopolitical climate of our time right now. And you know, I found it interesting, Trita Parsi's perspective here. I think I'm too young to maybe understand some aspects of it, and I think it's interesting to think that to think about the fact that it depends on which president we're talking about, who is in the presidential leadership, oftentimes because we kind of dismiss Iran as being a complete dictatorship with flawed elections and all of that, but the person who is president still does have an effect regardless. And so I just found it interesting to let's let him unpack it some more. Honestly, this is good shit.
Just as a front man.
Because at the end of the day, that's what the conservatives wanted. They wanted to make sure that the next supreme leader, first of all, would be a conservative, but is not that particularly supreme. At the end of the day, this is what they've been planning.
So who will it be now? I'm reading reports that it's going to be Khamenei's son, which would turn Iran into a kind of hereditary monarchy, which was what the Islamic Republic was supposed to get rid of, wasn't it?
The revolution would be complete in the sense that it will revolve back to exactly where it was in 1979 with a monarchy. Now, Khamenei has gone publicly and said that he does not think that it should be his son.
Okay.
There's, of course, rumors, and we know very little because they're keeping these things very tightly. But I think it's safe to say that Raisi very much was someone that they were banking on, and now their plans have to go back to square one. On your question about the new guy, Mokhber, look, his agenda, his mandate is to do nothing. Just keep things as they
until
are.
The elections.
Until the election. And here's very important. They're going to try to convey a tremendous amount of strength, control, and stability to show that they can handle a crisis, an unforeseen crisis like this. And this is essentially a practice run for when the supreme leader does.
You think he's very dapper looking to the suit? It's a nice suit. I'll be honest. It's a good fit.
But the truth is, they're not very stable or strong right now. They don't want new elections. The last elections in 2021, turnout was a record low of 48%. There were 3.5 million invalid ballots due to protests. Even people like Ahmadinejad boycotted that election. Are people going to turn up for this one?
Well, just see what happened in the parliamentary elections about a week or two ago. You had 42% participation rate nationwide, 7% in Tehran. 7%. And who knows how many of those were invalid votes either. Look, this is what has happened. The hardliners have been...
7% is so low. Jesus Christ.
Jesus ain't say that.
Oh, God. Okay. All right, let's move forward. Who is Mehdi's suit? Who is Mehdi's suit? Is this some sort of what is it? What does that mean? You think that Mehdi's suit is like alive? Okay. Well, let's go further south here in Asia and again discuss the current war going on in Myanmar, where thousands have been fleeing Myanmar for Thailand amid the civil war that's currently happening there right now.
Myanmar's civil war has taken a critical turn in recent weeks following a series of defeats for the military junta that reclaimed power in 2021. The exiled civilian government deposed in that coup says victory for their resistance is coming soon. But there are fears of a violent struggle as the military attempts to regain lost ground. Neighboring Thailand is nervously watching. Thousands of people have spilled over the border in recent weeks to...
Oh, who am I talking about? Honestly, I assumed that they were talking... Whoever even... I can't even remember who said it. But whoever said that, I thought they were talking about Trita Parsi. But then right after saying it, I thought maybe they were talking about Hassan. They both had really nice suits on, honestly. So it applies to both. You pick.
Escape the fighting, from where special correspondent Patrick Falk reports.
Over the last few weeks, fierce gun battles have erupted across Myanmar's Cayenne state. Rebel fighters have made major advances and forced hundreds of government soldiers to surrender. It's been an intense period for the resistance. Many of the rebels, like combat fighter Ko Tu and his wife, who's also part of the resistance, are now recuperating in the Thai border town of Mae Sot.
I rented this place. We live here because we cannot be at the front line all the time. We need to rest
and take care of our health. We also need to look after family matters.
Ko2 comes from Magwe region in central Myanmar and ran a fitness center business before the conflict began. He joined the resistance just days after the military ousted the country's democratically elected government, led by the longtime dissident-turned-politician Aung San Suu Kyi in February 2021. Since then, it's been racked by violence. The Arms Conflict Location and Event Date project, which tracks around 50 wars globally, estimates more than 50,000 people, including civilians and resistance fighters, have been killed. Ko2 carries the memory of some of those he fought alongside on his chest.
That's our battalion emblem. Comrades died. Some were arrested by military. Some were in jail.
Mae Sot has an official population of around 50,000 people. But that number has swelled as a result of the war, with some experts estimating there could be an additional 100,000 Burmese as natives of Myanmar are known seeking shelter here. In recent weeks, thousands more have poured over to escape the fighting. Many come over via the border checkpoint here at Friendship Bridge, but it's hard to stop even more crossing illegally along the nearly 200-mile-long Moi River separating Thailand and Myanmar. Among them, 26-year-old AA Tin, who's both very pregnant and clearly desperate. She and her husband left their village after it was struck by government air raids.
I came here with my husband. We walked across the river. The bridge was closed and I couldn't wait for it, so we crossed illegally. The water level was high.
In Mae Sot, AA Tin relies on the help of a supporter of the Burmese resistance. But conditions are tough and she fears being arrested by Thai border authorities.
So yeah, people are having kind of difficult experiences just trying to flee violence that is happening right now in Myanmar. Which is, if you're not completely clear on what's happening, the military junta is essentially in charge of the entire country, or was. Different rebel groups have been fighting essentially together against the military to regain control of the country. It's a pretty fucked situation, and the fact is this is all happening after millions of Rohingya people have been ethnically cleansed from Myanmar in the last, Jesus, when did it start? 8 years ago? Maybe. Oh, when's the first one? God damn it, I can't remember. Point is Myanmar has been having kind of a shitty time. To different degrees, depending on who you are. Okay. Alright, before we go to the Middle East, let's quickly look at what's been happening in Taiwan. As, I think yesterday we looked at the fact that China has been doing military drills all around the island of Taiwan as a response to US-backed drills that have been happening in the area. So Taiwan has now deployed jets to monitor those drills around the island. Let's look at this real quick. Comes after China's military began its second day. Oh my god, that's loud as fuck. Aiming to test their ability to control key areas and punish Taiwan's president Lai Ching-te days after he took office. Taiwan has accused Beijing, which sees the island as its territory, of aggression. We will not make any concessions because of this Chinese military exercise, because it concerns the development of democracy in Taiwan. The inauguration ceremony of the Taiwan government, which was elected by the people, is a happy event. And the fact that Taiwan is a democratic country will not be changed just because Communist China declares Taiwan is a part of China. That does seem fair. Although, I feel like they're holding on to that Communist China thing just in name only at this point.
China. I have to have my China.
Okay, now to the Middle East. Oh, I forgot to do this. Son of a bitch. Wait. So we're going to pull this up. I was going to do this, and I didn't. That's so... Why am I stupid? Hold on, let me see if I can do this. How to do this. God dang it. Why do you have to be so innovative, Medi? Why do you have to be so damn innovative? I don't appreciate it. Where is it? There it is. Okay. So, Mehdi Hassan, in all of his brilliance and foresight, I think perhaps is a good explanation of this, has decided to post things also, not just on YouTube, but on his own website. So he's created a website called Zateo.com, and he had Bassem Youssef on again. This is that interview.
And this is not, again, fringe figure. 90 to 100 million evangelicals in the United States. John Hagee's one of the biggest figures. He's invited to White House events. He's invited to U.S. embassy openings. Imagine if a Muslim was saying this stuff.
Imagine if a Muslim says, it's like, we need to destroy Israel. And then the next day, he's hosted by the president of Egypt.
Imagine a college kid on campus is saying, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. We're told that's genocide. This guy is proposing wiping out multiple countries in the Middle East. He's a favorite of the Republican Party. And by the way, this is the most important point. He's an anti-Semite. I'm Mehdi Hassan.
And I'm Bassem Youssef.
And we are not kidding.
We're not.
We're not. Bassem,
We're not.
Welcome back.
Are you leaning into this hoodie thing?
Oh, God, I knew it. The minute I put this on in my hotel room this morning, I thought, Bassem's going to make a gag.
I'm coming here.
Yeah, who
like,
are you?
I'm just
are you back to being a doctor
I'm
again?
being respectful.
I feel like you've got bedside manner. You're back to being a doctor
That's the only
again.
shirt I own.
Well, you look at it. I don't know what happened here today. I went informal, you went formal, role reversal.
Yes.
Good to have you back.
Thank you so much for
You've
having me.
been so busy traveling the world. I had to do an episode without you.
And you found a replacement for me already. You got Sami Obeid.
Sami was fantastic.
I
Very funny.
him. I hate him because he's so good.
He's very good.
He can make jokes about math.
About math?
How many people can do that? He's brilliant.
I've never come across anyone who's done it successfully.
Yeah.
No, we missed you, but you've been busy. Your tour's over. You're back here in LA. We are in Los Angeles. I'm here visiting you on home turf.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're back for what? 72 hours before you do another 100 shows?
Yes, I finished 25 shows in Europe, and then I'm doing just 5 shows in the Middle East, 4 different countries, and it's going to be interesting.
I watched you on Instagram in various cities in Europe. I got asked a question. You seemed like you were having a lot of fun. You are an Egyptian American from Cairo, living in LA. So, simple question: what's your favorite European city that you went to?
Oh, I don't know.
You gotta say.
Okay, I have one.
I'm a Londoner, so I'm biased, obviously.
Dublin. Oh my God, the energy. I had drunk Irishmen coming up to me. It's like, oh, it's you. You're free Palestine. Look,
that's what I was going to say. That's why you really like Dublin, not the drunk folks.
Put gold under him. What? He's like that.
You know, I'm familiar with the dispute, the historical dispute between Taiwan and China. I don't want to get too far into it, but I guess my point, the conclusion that I come to in this particular circumstance, I'm not sure if you're trying to suggest that because of that, China's right to be doing drills around China. I would push back on that idea if that's what you're saying by suggesting that Taiwan is not planning, nor is it capable of taking over China, and I haven't heard them suggest doing anything like that in my lifetime, at least in the part of my lifetime that's been politically aware. historically
energy.
aware.
That's why you like Ireland, because of Free Palestine. Because the Irish have got good politics.
Well,
that's the issue you care about.
I told them, like, Irish people, they've been occupied, displaced, they went through famine, they've been to oppression. They are the brown people of Europe, and that's why they feel for us.
I'm sure they even had a brown guy as prime minister for a while.
Yeah, I know.
So let's talk about Palestine.
By the way, one more thing.
Go on.
About before. I still going to try to make you dance with me at the end. Our favorite dance.
It's not gonna work.
Even with the hoodie.
Even with the hoodie, you can do it in your Cole Hans, and I'll watch you.
They are nice. They are nice.
I'm not the Dublin crowd, sadly. Let's talk about Palestine. Issue that hasn't gone away since we last spoke, sadly. And one thing I wanted to talk to you about today. This show is called We're Not Kidding. I want to talk about topics that you go, are you kidding? And the obvious topic, and I know you've talked about this, but I want to get into it today, which is religion. The role of religion in this conflict, the role of religious extremism, something you and I have both critiqued in our own ways over the years, both within our own community and in other communities. But I want to start with a really crazy story that you've talked about. I didn't believe when I came across, I thought this is nonsense.
What are we talking about?
I'm talking about a cow.
No, are you talking about the red heifers?
I want to talk about red heifers.
No, I know, dude. No.
I need to talk to you about red heifers.
No.
I do. I've become obsessed with red heifers.
No.
I have. I'm like the expert on red heifers now.
Here's the thing about red heifers. I went on a couple of podcasts, and everybody was like, "Oh, Bassem now is meddling in conspiracy theories." So with all of that, these messages, like, okay, maybe I went too far, because honestly, I was watching a lot of stuff, like, for example, that documentary called "Praying for Armageddon," which is an incredible documentary, I think, done by a Danish director, and they came to my show, by the way, in Copenhagen, and they were very appreciative, but I thought I was going too far, because I was scared, because when I saw that the people high up, politicians, people in power, spouting crazy religious, apocalyptic ideas, I thought I was a little bit paranoid.
Well, just so our viewers and listeners are with us, what's the deal with the red heifers?
I don't.
All right. I'll tell you.
I don't want to get into it.
All right, I'm going to get into it.
Okay.
This is fascinating.
Here's the thing. He's a respectful journalist, so I'm going to hide behind his journalistic credibility, and I'm going to see, oh my God, is that true? Oh my God, is this happening?
People who know me know that even if you disagree with me, I try and bring receipts.
Bring the receipts, babe.
For those of you at home who aren't aware of what is going on in what was a fringe part of the Israeli Jewish community, but is becoming very mainstream, unfortunately, under this government, there are a bunch of Messianic people in Israel who want to build the third temple, right? There's two previous temples destroyed by the Romans, the last one, 70 AD. And right now there is a movement, a temple movement in Israel and supported abroad, that wants to rebuild the temple. The only slight problem is they want to rebuild it on top of Al-Aqsa.
I don't understand why people have to try and live out or recreate the events of the Bible. It's just wild to me. It's like, chill the fuck out. Just a book. It's not a guide to, well, I guess a lot of people seem to think it's a guide to absolutely every single facet of life. Very frustrating.
No, are you saying that those people are using religious ideas in order to push political agendas so they can bring back?
I thought only Muslims do that.
They can bring back.
No, they can't, Muslim, because they're not Muslim.
Jesus and the end of the world.
No, you're not.
No, I thought we are the only one. We're the crazy one. No, don't tell me. I do not believe you. I do not believe you. No.
You've jumped ahead, my friend.
Okay.
Because we haven't even got to Jesus yet. We're talking about our Jewish cousins. Let's wait till we get to our Christian cousins in a moment.
Well, both of them are waiting for some kind of Jesus.
So they're waiting. Muslims are waiting too for a guy. Do you know who the Muslims are waiting for?
Al-Mahdi.
Yeah. Not me.
But
also Jesus. Jesus.
Just a coincidence.
Before we get into the deep religion, this is not a religious discussion.
Maybe it's you.
I want to be clear. Neither of us are religious scholars.
You are the Antichrist.
Neither of us are religious scholars. Okay. But this is important because right now we're seeing a lot of violence, not just in Gaza, as you pointed out in your initial viral Piers Morgan appearance, West Bank, occupied West Bank, East Jerusalem, we've seen a lot of violence.
It's all making sense now, though. Apparently Mehdi is the Antichrist. It checks out.
That is to do with these Messianic folks trying to storm the Al-Aqsa compound, trying to get, sovereignty of the Temple Mount. And just what's fascinating is there's a bunch of cows at the heart of this. And you talk about, we don't need to hide behind me. Well, let's hide behind CBS News.
Let's hide behind CBS News.
In a recent speech, Hamas spokesman blamed the Jews for bringing red cows to the Holy Land. The cows he's talking about at a secure, undisclosed location are these. red heifers, to be precise. Some Jews and Christians believe they're the key to rebuilding the historic Jewish temple in Jerusalem and to beckoning the Messiah.
So just to be clear to the viewers and listeners at home, I just want to be clear about this. There is a belief in some Jewish circles that in order to rebuild the temple, the third temple, because there was a first and a second temple, they believe, the second destroyed by the Romans in 70 AD. In order to do that, now, before the Messiah gets here, part of the build-up to that is finding a red heifer, a female cow that's never been milked, never been pregnant, never worked, never been yoked to a cart, and that cow.
What's the obsession with people not getting pregnant in religion specifically? Like all of them, basically. Like it's wild. Why? Why is that a thing?
Has to be completely red, not even two hairs.
How does that make it better?
Can be non-red, otherwise it doesn't count. Very hard to find. And that cow has to be found, brought to Jerusalem, burned, overlooking the site of the Temple Mount. The Mount of Olives is one such site. And when they burn that cow, they look at the book of Numbers in the Old Testament, which talks about this prophecy. Well, it talks about the use of a cow to purify the priests. This is what Moses and his brother Aaron are told by the Lord in the book of Numbers. They believe that in order to burn this cow, they're then purifying the ground, purifying the holy space, purifying the priests who will come and build the third temple. That's the role that the red heifer plays. And they now say they've got 5 of them. They claim they were going to burn it on Passover. Didn't happen. Passover came and went. They said they're going to do it on Pentecost, according to some of the evangelicals.
Yep.
That's come and gone in May. Didn't happen.
Yeah.
Now they're saying maybe June in Shavuot. Like with a lot of religious cults, the date keeps moving. But I find it fascinating that these people are using this idea of sacrificing a cow to rebuild the temple to bring about basically their version of the end times. But forget end times. We all know what would happen geopolitically in the world we live in today if there was, God forbid, an attack on Al-Aqsa Mosque by crazy messianic settlers.
Also, I'm plant-based, so I don't know. I don't subscribe to. I'm almost vegan, so.
Well, I actually love a good steak. I love beef. So it's interesting.
Let's have some beef.
By the way, here's an interesting part to the story of the red heifers.
Yeah.
The people who brought over these cows, they've been trying to breed one of these red heifers for ages in the West Bank. In the mid-90s, apparently there was a cow called Melody that they thought was the cow. And by the way, for people thinking we're crazy, again, let's hype
Well,
David Landau of Haaretz wrote a piece in the mid-90s.
sound
And he said, shoot the cow in the head. A bullet to the head. We cannot have this cow. It'll bring about craziness. It'll bring about a terrorist attack, right? That's how worried people were in Israeli society about the fringe. But in the 90s, they were the fringe, Bassam. Now they're in government. They're in cabinet. The Israeli government gave an exception to these cows. Do you know this? They turned them into pets.
Pets. They say, like, we cannot bring them because there are strict laws to bringing cattle outside of Israel. So they had to bring them as pets.
And they were greeted at the airport by the Israeli minister, director.
You like walk your cow down the street or something? That's very strange.
The Israeli Ministry for Jerusalem and Heritage Affairs. The Israeli government is in on this. This is why we want to talk about it today. Because I talk a lot about the Israeli government, about Ben Gvir, about Smotrich, about Eliyahu, who's the heritage minister from Smotrich's party. The guy
about the Temple Institute, which is actually an institute supported by the Israeli government.
Yes.
So here's the thing. This is exactly what happened to me. When I started talking about this, like Bassem is just bringing fringe ideas. These are people on the fringe. And people were responding to me. It's like, oh, you're just like bringing the most extreme ideas. Like, okay, maybe I'm wrong. But now I see some of those people in ceremonies, like, for example, when they opened moved the American embassy into Jerusalem, all of those, like John Hagee, all of those right-wing Christians, all of these people came in and they were celebrating it. So it is not really just political. It is
Yeah. Now we're not going to watch this whole thing, but I just found this pretty fascinating. I mean, we don't do too many deep dives on religion, but this sort of thing being mainstream in Israel is just wild. And I think we're all pretty familiar with some of the doomsday cults in America, the Christian ones, who think that how many Jews have to die? I forget. Is it 2/3? Anyway, let's move on. Unexpected. I wasn't thinking I was going to have to... I totally forgot about... I was going to actually try and record it, but that actually played really well off the website. Midstream. Okay, what was I doing? Ah, yes. What's next? Let's talk about Palestine. First, let's watch this piece from CBC News from a couple of days ago. If somehow you've been completely devoid of news in the last couple of days, Ireland, Norway, and Spain have all officially recognized the state of Palestine. And let's talk about that among some other finer details.
There is a belief
relating to this. Okay.
Spain, Ireland, and Norway say they will officially recognize an independent Palestinian state.
I'm confident that further countries will join us in taking this important step in the coming weeks.
It's a historic but largely symbolic move that comes amid international outrage over the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu calls the recognition a reward for terrorism.
We send a clear and unequivocal message to their leaders. Israel will not remain silent in the face of those undermining our sovereignty and endangering our security.
I just want to point this out, and I think this guy is one of the main perpetrators of this. I've noticed that Canadians have actually found the whitest possible way to say Gaza. I know I'm not saying it correct. I've heard people say it better, and I think I'm just scared of saying it bad. So I'm just saying it the way I say it. But holy shit, Gaza's gotta go. Okay, I mean, I don't mean actual Gaza. I just mean that pronunciation. It's wild. I don't know why he says it like that.
Recent UN vote on Palestinian statehood, Canada voted to abstain, a significant shift from its usual vote of no. Canada's ambassador to the UN calls the change a commitment to reaching a two-state solution. Meanwhile, Canadian MPs remain divided on the issue.
The Palestinians need to live in a free and democratic state.
This is absolutely not the time to do that.
Should Canada recognize the state of Palestine?
Absolutely not. We absolutely believe
not.
that we need to recognize Palestine as a state. So everybody's focus.
It is a Hamas, Piers Morgan type deal.
Be on bringing peace and stability to the region.
I think that Canada should have recognized the state of Palestine many years ago.
As it stands, more than 140 countries around the world recognize an independent Palestinian state. Most of those countries are in the Middle East, Africa, and Asia. For more on today's news, I'm joined now by Mona Abu-Amara, the Chief Representative of the Palestinian General Delegation to Canada. Mona Abu-Amara, it's good to see you again.
Thank you, David. You too.
How significant is this in your view, this recognition by 3 European nations?
It's a great day for Palestine. It's a great day for justice. It's very significant. And I hope we'll be seeing more of those days in the coming weeks and months.
Ireland has been moving in this direction for a while based on the commentary in their legislature as they've debated this. Were you surprised by Norway and Spain joining them in this, or what are your thoughts on the specific countries?
Not really, because there have been talks on both accounts and even statements made by the leaders weeks or a couple of months ago in this regard. So, of course, there are talks and then there are actions. So we've heard a lot of those talks, and we have more countries that we've heard will be recognizing in the coming weeks as well, for at least confirmed. So it wasn't really a big surprise, but it was a privilege to see with everything that these countries represent and the hope that this will have a domino effect.
Right. The formal recognition comes on the 28th of May.
Yes.
So, like, it hasn't happened yet, but certainly a clear signal.
But they have...
clear signal of intention. No. But you see, you've heard of other countries. Do you have a sense of how many? Are they European nations? What parts of the world?
We have European nations. They're the ones that we have mostly confirmed are 4 coming in the next few weeks.
Can you share who those are, or are you leaving it to them?
I can. It's Belgium, Luxembourg, Slovenia, and
I think the other one is Turkey. I don't think she recalls during this interview, unfortunately, but I think it's Turkey. I didn't look it up, but I don't know why, but I'm pretty sure in my head, in terms of other EU countries. But yeah, what did she say? Belgium, Luxembourg, Belgium, Luxembourg, and Slovenia. Now, Turkey isn't for sure, so don't write that one down. But I think it's just really interesting. This is the only other place that I heard someone suggest that there were other countries in the works right now that were planning on making the same announcement in terms of recognizing Palestine as a state. And I think what she winds up saying is that it could potentially happen in the next couple of weeks when those announcements could happen. So I just found that to be a really great development. I know it's all piecemeal, but you start adding some of these things up. Arrest warrants being sought, Palestinian state being recognized by EU countries. Those are the ones that really had the problem in the first place. You know what I mean? It might not all, individually, some of these things might not be huge, right? But you start talking about 7 or 8 countries in the EU recognizing Palestine. Suddenly, it does feel like the narrative begins to shift with that being the case, right? Especially you start adding in something like the ICJ's determination from a few months ago. You look at the ICC arrest warrants being all of it, right? I'm not saying it ends the war today, but it is it's just all good stuff. Let's just quickly look at this. Speaking of the ICJ, if you didn't hear this, earlier today, the International Court of Justice ordered Israel to end its military operation in Rafah. Not the ICC, the ICJ.
And we begin with breaking news on the Israel-Hamas war and a ruling just out from the International Court of Justice in The Hague. Now, the judges at the ICJ have reaffirmed earlier orders in a case brought by South Africa. And today, they have ordered Israel to halt its offensive in Rafah. Israel has also been ordered to reopen the Rafah border crossing to give investigators access and to allow for the flow of aid and humanitarian measures.
Israel must immediately halt its military offensive and any other action in the Rafah governorate which may inflict on the Palestinian group in Gaza conditions of life that could bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part.
Reporter Alex Caddy is just outside the court in The Hague, where that ruling just came down a few moments ago. Alex, what more can you tell us about the ruling and its potential impact?
BCAT is right. It's not a war. What's the ICJ? It is the International Committee of Juice. They determine what juice is the best, whether it's orange juice or grapefruit juice, apple, perhaps. Maybe you're a fan of grape.
Well, certainly this ruling we expected was going to send a very clear message, and it has done that. The court ordering Israel to cease all military operations in Rafah, also explaining some of the logic behind that decision. They say the humanitarian situation in Rafah can be seen as disastrous, and they are not convinced that Israel has put enough in place to cater to that humanitarian disaster. Or
okay, I was just using that as like a what do you call it, sort of a segue. So we're going to talk about this a little bit in depth. So yeah, let's listen to this. This is from the Al Jazeera English channel. Actually, no, we'll listen to part of this next one as well. Then, because I think that one's actually all. I think that's the footage of the Arab ambassadors, the UN. Yeah, okay, let's watch this next one. Good question. How are they going to enforce it? Well,
the court considers that in conformity with the
how are they going to force it? They can't, right? What they have to do is they have to go to the UN and ask them. The members of the UN would essentially have to probably vote. The United States could still block this. So it's complicated, right?
Under the Genocide Convention, Israel must immediately halt its military offensive and any other action in the Rafah governorate which may inflict on the Palestinian group in Gaza conditions of life that could bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. The court recalls that in its order of January 26, 2024, it ordered Israel inter alia to, I quote, take effective measures to prevent the destruction and ensure the preservation of evidence related to allegations of acts within the scope of Article 2 and Article 3 of the Genocide Convention, end of quote. In the present circumstances, the court is also of the view that in order to preserve evidence related to allegations of acts falling within...
Okay. Let's just listen to the Arab ambassadors at the UN respond to this ICJ ruling.
Ambassador is speaking, Riyad Mansour. Let's listen in.
مرحبا، سأتحدث بصفتي رئيس المجموعة العربية لشهر مايو.
Chairman of the Arab Group for May, and the resolution that has been endorsed by the Security Council regarding protection of civilians, and then Dr. Mansour will talk to you. The Arab Group confirmed the necessity of protecting the civilians and the humanitarian workers, United Nations employee and staff, and we denounce all attacks against the civilians. And when it comes to Gaza and the violations committed by the Israeli forces against the humanitarian workers and the civilians, I'll take this opportunity to make sure that the main principles and the main interest is to stop fighting in Gaza, particularly in Rafah, and to deliver the humanitarian aid necessary for the people in Gaza and to stop the transfer. The Arab Group welcomes the procedures, temporary procedures of the International Court of Justice and...
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna move it ahead to Riyad Mansour. Him speak.
Praise. We decided yesterday in a meeting to have this press conference, and as said by my brother Muhammad, there are two topics that are of extremely importance. First, the endorsement of the Security Council regarding the resolution, which is mainly for or against the brutal practices of the Israeli forces in Gaza. In more than one paragraph, they call for stopping this aggression, protection of the civilians, protection of the humanitarian workers, protection of the United Nations employees, and to stop violence and genocide committed by the some Israeli officials, and we need to respect the humanitarian international law, the international law.
What I find fascinating is that I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, in order to stop genociding something or some people, you have to already be doing it.
I don't want reality.
And all the elements mentioned in this resolution are quite important, and we'd like to thank Switzerland.
But it's just funny that the ICJ, I think that they worded it in such a way. It's just, it essentially is accusing Israel of definitely committing genocide now. Because the first one said probable. But to say that you have to stop genociding people means that basically the ICJ is saying, hey, you're definitely genociding now, and we need you to stop it.
And the other countries who supported this resolution from inside and outside the Security Council. Voting was great. 14 countries were for, with an absentee against the resolution. The resolution is another resolution that Israel must be committed to protect the civilians, the international workers, and the humanitarian staff, and to provide.
Okay, cool. That, well, not cool. I mean, it's good that all this is happening. Hopefully, its effect is felt soon in Gaza. That's pretty much we can all hope for, at least try to. Okay, let's look at this really quickly, where I think pro-Palestinian protesters in, I think it must have been in Britain, were asked about the ICJ ruling. This was their response, at least one individual's response.
Today's hearing is good, but is not enough. Is not enough. We are looking for a free Palestine without any problems, you know. And you see that more than 15,000 children are died. What we want more?
Oh, it's the Netherlands,
Only
sorry.
a free Palestine.
Netherlands.
Also, a free two-states resolution is enough.
Yes, we appreciate the hands-off Rafah, or let's say the halt in Rafah operation, but that's not merely enough. That's signaling to us that the rest of Gaza is fair game, and that's absolutely not okay. We demand a ceasefire.
Absolutely.
Arguably the greatest work of nonfiction of the 20th century.
Right on. Okay. Oh my god. Wow. Did I get this far this quickly today? I'm impressed with myself right now. Okay. Well, chat, good job. Made it to the final video of the stream. Unfortunately, it is not, it did not pack a uplifting video for the end. Sometimes I, you know, just too much other stuff going on, and I struggle to find uplifting things to do here at the end, but this is from 11 hours ago from The Guardian. Footage captures the moment of an airstrike from inside a nearby building in Gaza. Jesus Christ. Oh, this is in Rafah. Oh my god. Come on. Come on. Mehdi and Possum would have been a good ending. It's actually a really good point. I guess we could watch a little bit more of that. Maybe I'll do a little chat poll. Here. I'll start a poll. I actually have enough time for this. We can do this. Okay. But, at least for now, I think that this is just something that we need to talk about for a second, because we've been, you know, talking about how there's been a supposed red line put up by the United States regarding Rafah. I want to say like 2 weeks now, Rafah has been getting struck by missiles. And that I would count as an attack on Rafah. the United States has basically ignored these missile strikes, but they continue to get larger and larger. That looked like a massive fucking bomb that just got dropped in that goddamn apartment building. We just witnessed it with our very eyes. And, you know, I think we even saw footage of a department official suggesting that they had not seen any strikes on Rafah, in complete contravention of reality.
I don't want reality.
Where are we at? 70% of people. How many votes do we have? 10 votes. Okay. All right, well, democracy is spoken. That's good enough for me. I'll hold on. I will line this video up.
And this is not.
So it is not really just political. It is religious, and that is scary. Here's the thing about building the third temple over Al-Aqsa Mosque. A lot of people, when they see this picture of the gold dome mosque, they say that's the Al-Aqsa. That's actually the rock of the dome of the rock.
Yeah.
Al-Aqsa Mosque is actually right
in
next
some
to it.
Jewish circles.
And it's like
In order to rebuild the temple,
like
the third temple, because there was a first
building.
and a second temple, they believe. The second
I remember I was
by the
growing up,
Romans
people
in
say, like,
70
What the
AD.
fuck is
careful,
happening?
this
In
is
order
not
to
Al-Aqsa
do
Mosque.
that,
That's
now
Al-Aqsa
before the
Mosque.
Oh my
mosque,
god.
With all of the conspiracy
I have
theories,
2
at the
copies
time,
of the
before
video
those
going
strange
at the same
things will
time.
never happen, but now it's closer than ever. It's like when they tear down Al-Aqsa, was like, see, the golden dome is still there. We didn't tear it down. So maybe it's just like an idea especially for the people who are not from that
clear what
region,
we're talking about.
to understand the distinction between Al-Aqsa Mosque. And either ways, even if there's no Aqsa Mosque, to have to go in and to do something that will incite maybe a very very big regional war just because of religious beliefs, that's scary in itself.
So I want to bring up those guys you mentioned in a moment. Before we get that far, let's just talk about what's so fascinating is there is this weird alliance between right-wing Christian evangelicals in the US who want to bring about the new temple because Jesus will rule from that temple for 1,000 years, they believe, the dispensationalists. And of course, our far-right Israeli settler friends who want to, destroy all of this and bring back the Messiah. I should point out, mainstream Jewish religious views is that the temple is rebuilt when the Messiah comes, not predates it. You can't.
You can't force the Messiah out
But
of hiding.
it reminds me of some of the ISIS folks. Do you remember some of the ISIS folks in Dabiq wanted a big battle to bring about the end of the world? They believed in northern Syria, and most of us Muslims said that's not how it works. You don't get to kind of accelerate the end of the world through your own stupid actions.
So actually, this comes back to the origin of the Zionist movement, because when the Zionist movement started in the 19th century, and they said, like, we need to have a state of Israel, so we will bring back the Messiah. Many of the rabbis said, like, no, you can't. He has to come first. Yeah. So they said, well, we're gonna accelerate it. Yeah. So we're gonna build it, and he will come.
Yes. That most religious Jews and rabbis around the start of Zionism were opposed to Zionism, precisely this reason. It was a secular ideology. And I'm going to be debating Zionism next month in June in Toronto on this very subject, because people don't understand the history of this topic. It is very political right now. You have government.
It feels like maybe this is a somewhat inept analogy, but it feels to me a bit like if Lord of the Rings fans or something like that were like meeting in forests to bring about the, like, I don't know, like the Battle of Helm's Deep or something. I don't know. It just feels ridiculous. But instead of meeting in forest, they were doing like really, really problematic things. Like, I'm not even whatever. You get what I'm saying.
It's bad.
It was a bad analogy. I'm sorry.
You have a temple institute that wants to do it. And by the way, Hamas keep bringing this up. We want to talk about. They always want us to talk about Hamas, but let's talk about Hamas.
Before talking about Hamas, I want to talk about something about religious. When we're talking about like a lot of rabbis and Jewish sects were against having Palestine as the state for like to be the home for Jewish people. There was this documentary produced, directed, and hosted by Bill Maher's called Religiousness.
Is that a Field of Dreams reference? That's actually really on point. God damn. Well played.
Religiousness? Is that the name?
Going off to making the case for atheism, right?
Yeah. But no. He was making fun of organized religions, Islam, Christianity, Judaism. So in that, he made fun of all of the extreme views of all of the religions. He went to Islam, and of course, it was like an easy target for him. All of the people killing in the name of Allah, all of those people like using terrorism as a way to advance their religious beliefs. Okay, and then he went to the Christians, and he made fun of the second coming of Jesus and the rapture. But then he went to the Jewish people. He had a lot to choose from. But what he did, he went to Naturi Karta, which is the anti-Zionist who...
Well, I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit here. Wait, no, a little too far. Yeah, right here. Hey, no. Wait, come on. Be friends with me. Almost.
Audacity to come on a TV show and say to me, well, Bible verse XY, Quran verse XY. This guy's telling me that he goes on to become Prime Minister of Israel shortly after this interview. He's telling me, go change the Bible. And I was perplexed in that moment. I was like, is he really doing this? And that's why we need to understand that there are people who are, we talk about in our community, the Salafi literalists, the people who take the Quran and Hadith literally. These guys are running Israel, some of these people. And Israelis know this, by the way. We don't talk about this in American media. Secular Israelis know that they...
Some people just want to watch the world burn. Yeah. Some people have interpreted their religious books to mean that they need to do that. And it's fucking wild. I hope that everybody knows here at the Galactic News Network, while we're often doom-focused, we are doom preventative rather than doom summoning.
being overrun. The New York Times just did a big piece about how fringe settlers and messianic figures have basically taken over Israel. Ronan Bergman has just written a piece last week. So this is a conversation we need to have. It has an impact on all of us. And meanwhile, instead of calling this stuff out, the American political mainstream, especially the Republican Party, you have Mike Johnson turning up to events where they're talking about red heifers and building another temple and bringing about the end of the world. You mentioned them all. The John Hagees, the religious Christian evangelical leadership in this country who are totally on board with Israel.
And also people like Kufi, Christian United for Israel, they have an annual budget of $7 million to spend on lobbying. $7 million. Well, and actually, over the years, John Hagee sent $80 million to Israel, not from his own money, but these are all donations from his congregation.
So you know how he gets the donations. We've got a clip of John Hagee. Let's play the clip of John Hagee.
The Jewish people are a covenant people. Those covenants that God made with them still stand. They have not been replaced by the church, as many of you have been taught. The Jewish people are a cherished people.
I just realized whenever anybody quotes the Old Testament, I can use Omarosa.
Jesus, I say that.
Because, well, I think we all know.
They are a chosen people. God chose those people.
I need to talk about God chosen people.
Okay.
Because I don't know, as a Christian, when your priest or pastor tells you they are God chosen people. Now, if I'm sitting there,
why am I not one of them?
Would I feel like left out? Why isn't God choosing me? If you believe so hard that these are God chosen people, why don't you become Jewish?
Yeah, it doesn't make
Why don't
sense.
you convert?
Well, the answer is, and let's play the rest of the clip. Well, the answer's coming. You have a listen.
They are, the Bible says, the apple of God's eye. The apple is the pupil of your eye. So if you start picking on Israel, you're sticking your finger.
You want a red cow emoji? Well, unfortunately, we have no emojis here. Until this channel gets monetized, and the only way to do that is to get more subscribers, I would point out. We can have no red cow emoji. Not unless our YouTube and or phone overlords bequeath us with a red cow emoji. It's impossible. I just can't do it.
Not gonna do it. Wouldn't be prudent at this juncture.
But if, I don't know, theoretically, hypothetically, we were monetized, it would be something we could, I don't know, vote on in the Discord, which you can join at this link.
In the eye of God. Try sticking your finger in someone's eye and see how quick you get their attention.
Or stick your finger somewhere else.
Did you notice the very smart conflation from God's chosen people and the Jewish people? And as a Muslim, I believe God does cherish the Jewish people. But did you notice the smart conflation from that to Israel?
Yeah.
Immediately, what Hagee's interest is not the Jewish people. It's the state of Israel, which is a modern secular creation. When God is talking in the Bible about Jews and Israel, he's not talking about the state created by David Ben-Gurion in 1948. Let's keep playing.
The significant thing for you to remember here is that God Almighty is making it an unbreakable covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob forever, that the land belongs to the Jewish people. End of story. There are 38 different passages in the Bible that give the borders of Israel. God promised the Jewish
Bible
people
gives us the borders
these
of a
lands,
country.
one half of
It
modern-day
shouldn't do
Egypt,
that. Let's be real.
all of Israel,
Oh my God.
all of Lebanon,
oh my
all
God.
of
Oh
Syria,
my God.
all of Jordan,
Saudi
all
Arabia.
of Kuwait, and 3/4 of Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
This is going to become a
kidding.
reality in the millennial reign.
This is
when
wild.
Jesus Christ rules the world from Jerusalem with a rod of iron. God's not saying, let's make a deal. He's saying, this is the deal. This is the property they have. This is.
That might be one of the worst of the graphs / maps that we've seen all day. We've seen a bunch of terrible graphs, by the way. And wow, this one is ridiculous. Granted, this one is completely just living in some sort of twilight zone, but still, it's terrible. And people are actually trying to make this basically happen. And people call, like, you know, call like all the Arab countries around Israel like problematic and like a threat to Israel's freedom and stuff. Meanwhile, you got fucking John Hagee over here talking about I don't know, turning Israel into most of the Middle East. Like, what in the fuck is this map?
Israel right now. And this is what will happen whenever the Messiah comes back. It will be a massive land grant.
It's very interesting because this is also very close to
chat.
the map of Greater Israel that Smotrich and Ben Gafir put it behind them. But their map is much bigger. So here's like, Hagee basically gave them a little bit of Saudi Arabia, all of Syria, all of Lebanon, all of Jerusalem, a little bit of Egypt.
Don't forget about your country.
Yeah, but a little bit here. But like in the Greater Israel, they take all of Sinai, all
of
the way to
Lebanon,
the Euphrates, a little bit of Turkey.
Wild.
And
oh my God. That map just broke me inside. Good God. By the way, I see you over there, lurking, Mr. Mitty.
thing is, and he says like sooner or later this happened. So basically, we are being told that we are going to be kicked out of our land soon because God wants that.
So that's scary, right? I mean, this is not, again, fringe figure. 90 to 100 million evangelicals in the United States. John Hagee's one of the biggest figures. He's invited to White House events. He's invited to U.S. embassy openings. Imagine if a Muslim was saying this stuff.
Imagine if a Muslim says it's like we need to destroy Israel, and then the next day, he's hosted by the president of Egypt.
Imagine a college kid on campus is saying from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. We're told that's genocide. This guy is proposing wiping out multiple countries in the Middle East. He's a favorite of the Republican Party.
Yes.
And by the way, this is the most important point. He's an anti-Semite.
Yeah.
His philo-Semitism.
Here's the thing about those people, Kufis and the likes. They are pro-Israel, but they hate the Jews. Because they're
pro-Israel because they want to get rid of it.
Yeah, they want to get rid of it.
So
It's like, hey, go there so we can kill you all.
So just to be clear, John Hagee is on the record saying that Hitler was a half Jew. He says the Antichrist will be partially Jewish.
This phrase that I'm using in Scripture, the God of his fathers,
is a phrase in Scripture used solely to identify the Jewish people. It suggests that this man is at least going to be partially Jewish, as was Adolf Hitler.
Basma, I'm pretty sure if you and I, God forbid, ever said anything close to that,
Oh
we
my
would be
God.
rightly
We'd be
right.
right.
rightly cancelled. This guy is hosted by the Republican Party, by United States presidents, and he's supposed to be the ally of the...
He was one of the first people they trotted out to tell us about the scourge of anti-Semitism, wasn't he? After October 7th, he showed up to say that Israel was under threat of, I forget exactly what he said, but it was wild. Now let's listen to more of this. Whatever. It's the last video anyway, so might as well just keep enjoying this right now. Actually, what time is it? We'll listen to a few more minutes.
People?
What's her name? Stefanik? What's her
Elise
name?
Stefanik.
Elise Stefanik, the one who's
Congresswoman
like
from New York,
grilling all
yeah.
of the Ivy League presidents. She goes in and she endorses Carpaladoni, who said that Hitler is the kind of leader that we need today.
I was thinking the other day about somebody had mentioned on the radio Adolf Hitler and how he aroused
the crowd.
I mean, he'd get up there screaming these epic.
Gee. Good God. Oh, that's not the thing about him. I mean, oh, God damn it.
And these people were just they were hypnotized by him.
Okay.
I guess that's the kind of leader we need today.
She also endorses great replacement theory, which led to the killings in Buffalo, which says Jews are bringing in brown people. So
the same people who love Israel are the same people who go out and say Jews will not replace us.
It's scary.
It is scary.
And
they don't see that. And like I'm watching.
So hold on. They do. I just want to be clear here.
Oh, God. What is the world we're living in right now? I'm broken inside. Broken. I'm broken, man. I have to look at this all the time. Hooked on Stefanix. Well played.
Our American Jewish community does see that, right? So the polling done by Pew and others shows, here's a great stat for you. Twice as many Christian evangelicals believe God gave the land to the Jewish people in America as American Jews.
Yeah.
It's a 2-to-1 ratio, right? It's crazy. Like 60 to 70% of American evangelists believe God gave that land to the Jewish people for them alone. Only about 30 to 40% of American Jews believe that literal vision of the...
It is such a strange phenomenon that it exists outside of the Jewish religion in the United States more than it does within it.
Naphtali Bennett vision. So again, we have to remind ourselves we're not talking about ordinary Jews and Christians here. We're talking about fringe freaks who are no longer fringes in their respective countries.
Exactly.
In Israel, they're controlling the government, and in the United States, they're controlling the Republican Party.
Exactly.
People like Robert Jeffress, who says stuff like Jews will go to hell. He was invited to the U.S. Embassy opening, where Jonathan Greenblatt from the ADL spoke alongside him. Didn't call him an anti-Semite, but calls Rashida Tlaib and others. So it's deeply depressing to see what is happening in the United States.
I don't feel like this really uplifted me. Honestly, I hadn't even watched. I saw a clip of it on YouTube with a link to it. I got distracted. I forgot to do my job. Never actually watched the full vid. So, hey, we got to do it together. It was fun. I enjoyed it, honestly. But the ending still felt depressing. Either way, glad we did it. You're the ones who decided we did it. And, well, I think it was a good decision. Well, it would seem we made it through another stream together. Oh, it was phenomenal having all of you folks here with me, even if the main subject of our discussion today was, well, it was mostly doom. Well, that's it for me. Till I'll see you next time. You stay classy, Galactic Stream Nation. Well, can't forget this. These are your galactic patrons. Gabby, John Dogs, Aaron W, Mitty, PB, Robot Cat, Morbius Dragon, The Anti-Corporatist, Moa Noab, Nadia, Vincent Morales, and Donald James X. Well, thanks to all these people here, we all still have this fantastic space in space together. You too can help contribute by going to this link. And for a few American dollars a month, you can access base benefits unseen by the rest of the goddamn galaxy. This is a good point. You should share this stream.